Let me blast off. Let's get started. You know, there's a lot to talk about and I'm late already, so let's freaking do it. Let's freaking go. Let's freaking go. Let's freaking go. You have to stay out of trouble until then, so then I have some controversy or something to shoehorn in as the focus. Well, yeah, it's coming out on Sunday, so that's not gonna be an issue. All right, Freaky Friday. The elusive Tafts episode is finally released. Trump lies about talking to Xi like a scorned ex. Did you go to the barber and just ask him to fuck my shit up? Yeah, that's what I did. I went to the barber and I said, fuck my shit up, fam. Yo, you wish you had hair like this, big dog. The elusive Tafts episode finally releases today. Okay. Trump lies about talking to Xi like a scorned ex. Judge, hold on, we got that. Wisconsin judge, hold on. Control Shift T. Wisconsin judge arrested by FBI for sheltering migrant, and so much more. Get in now. Twitch.tv. Oh, I watched a little bit of Love on the Spectrum. Trump admin reversing all visa cancellation too. That's a other thing that they're doing. Dude, it's a crazy time. It's a crazy time to be alive. Okay. If that judge got arrested by the FBI, surely they should arrest the Governor Evers next. I'm being facetious, obviously just sharing your rights, but holy fuck. I do want hair like that, and thanks to you, I know to go to Turkey to get it. I wouldn't worry, style stories are not something they go in hard on anyone in. Headline is cringe, but it's actually really well done and very charitable and fun to read. I think you will like it, and I love the pics they chose. Okay. Did you feel seen? What do you mean? Free George Santos. Kneecap visa got revoked. I only saw a Twitter post about it, so I don't know if it's real or not. DOJ accidentally files document outlining flaws of Trump administration's plan to kill New York City congestion pricing. God, they're so incompetent. It quite literally is the only saving grace of this admin is that they have the willpower to follow through, but they don't have the conviction necessarily to follow through on a white supremacist, full tilt fascist control agenda, right? They have the interest in doing so. They're silly enough to do so. They're corrupt enough to do so, but they don't have the organizational capacity, and they are utterly incompetent, which is precisely the reason why they're still flailing. And that's the only saving grace here. This is not because like the Democrats are putting on an expert front and you know, it is certainly not because the Democrats are doing a fantastic job like combating fascism or anything like that. It's almost entirely because the administration is just way too stupid to get this nefarious fascist agenda across. They are having a very difficult time with this. So thank God for that, I guess. I guess that is the one saving grace. It's like, it's an admin filled to the brim with Pete Hegseth style individuals. So luckily they're all too drunk and too invested in doing rapes, I guess, to actually continue money molestation or you know, filing the necessary cases to undermine. What the fuck? Your face looks like Hollywood? What does that mean? Dems are following the China way. Do nothing win? No. There is no do nothing win in this situation, because if they were more competent, it would not be a do nothing win situation. If the Republicans were more competent, we'd be cooked. Anyway, here, we'll start off with this, even though I know every single person is going to be incredibly annoying today and constantly post this in the chat. And I'm very excited for it because I haven't seen it either. I have no idea what this looks like. I have no idea what the Adam Friedland show episode is going to look like. Literally have no idea. So I'm very stoked to watch it as well. It's been years and years at this point. I think we filmed this like, what, 2 years ago? But it's finally here. It's finally here at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. But here is a little sneak preview. Here's a teaser.
So Hassan, you're somewhat of a fashion icon.
Okay.
So I'm gonna show some of your best looks.
Oh, here we go.
Here's the famous one. Here's the famous one.
Oh no!
Here's the famous one. Okay, so here we go. This is the famous one. You know, the jeans don't get enough love.
So that was I gotta stop wearing my friend's merchandise. That was a dude who was doing graphic design. at the Young Turks at the time.
Bro,
and he's an anarchist.
He's an anarchist?
Yeah.
He's like the Joker? This one, you got killed on this one.
Okay, let's see.
You know, this one you got killed on.
Oh, yeah. That's another.
Yeah.
So
it looks almost like you're being like a little bit.
So that lady was like, can I have that? Like, can I have that sweater?
I hope
and
you gave it to her.
I did. No, I didn't. I was like, no,
said,
I need to take more photos.
I'm calling the police. This is my favorite look of yours.
Which one? Okay.
Let's see it right here.
What the fuck is that?
That's you at the.
Who is that guy?
That's you, no?
Yeah. Are you going to Global Day of Action for Gaza in LA today at 4? No, I didn't know that it was happening. So probably not. Chris Angel Magician. If AOC becomes the next POTUS, would you want to work as part of the U.S. government? Probably not. You don't know Mind Freak? I don't exactly know what he looks like. Speaking of merch, the new Trump merch is pure fire. Time to update your fit. Is it the Trump 2028 thing? Gotta stop wearing my friend's merch. Dang, foreshadow much? Yeah, so this is for those of you who don't know, this is the premier center left podcast out there. Obviously, I partook in this a long time ago. I don't even know exactly when I participated in this, but it's crazy because you can see how fat I am here. Or maybe I can, but maybe you guys can't. But it is kind of wild seeing how pasty and how fat I am in this, at least the way I see it. I think it was last summer, right around the Trump shooting. Was it? No, it must have been before then even. I mean, the pastiness looks back as a bad color grading. I mean, there's definitely light camera and angles that are playing a role in this, but bro, I'm not going to watch the SWAT standoff, dude. Please stop posting it in the chat. Okay. That's crazy. You want me to watch like some dude get fucking shot? Do you want me to just get banned this early in the day instead of covering the news? Please, please stop linking it. Chat's like, hey, Chatter's like, hey, I need you to know that there is like something that is happening right now that will definitely get you banned. It's just, there's no payoff. There's no payoff on that. Took the RADS R test today and got 130. Don't tell RFK. Oh no, you're going to the camps. You're going to the camps, baby. Hey, Central Committee, thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream, brother. Mike Raid. Why do you think Pedro Pascal is like the most employed actor despite him being openly pro-Palestine, trans rights, etc.? Because he's goated. I got to shout you out, dog. I started running again thanks to you. I only made it half a mile before I keeled over yesterday, but I'm getting on track to run 6 miles again after doing it for years. I mean, watch out for those knees, though. Not trying to bait or anything, but did you talk to anyone about talking to E yet? No, dude. What the fuck? No, it's not up to me. The ball is not in my court, okay? I have been asking to do this for fucking 3 months. Why are you guys asking me? Ask him when it's going to happen. Demand it from him. Don't demand it from me. I have said that I'm willing to do this since I made a fucking video that said, debate me, Ethan, literally on February 3rd, okay? I am so confused as to how people, even in this community, will constantly ask me this question. I don't have anything, I can't say anything more about it other than what you know. I know what you know. I am not on the inside. I am on the outside. If he says yes when you're both live, will you do it immediately? Yes! 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 Shut the fuck up! Oh my God! You guys are so fucking annoying! Holy shit! Why? Why in the ever-loving fuck do you think I wouldn't say yes to that? Oh my God! I've been live for fucking 27 minutes! Shut up! God damn. I think, honestly, I do think we have a real crisis of mental ineptitude in this community, I think. Especially born out of people who just want fucking drama. Like, they're like, yeah, I care about the news, but I really, really care about the fucking drama. Can we just, and chatters who really fucking care about the drama also demonstrate their like, diminished mental qualities on a regular basis in the chat by fucking asking the dumbest questions, dude. Stop. You need to have a document with sources and full context clips ready to go. Don't fucking worry about it. I can deal with it. All right. I don't have to prep it all. All right. There you go. I'm that confident. Please stop trying to fucking backseat this process. Our chatter's dev. What the fuck is going on? You've said yes to the question 1,000 times already. What's so hard to get? I don't know. I don't know what it is. Anyway, what is this?
Mr. Piker, the American people deserve to know, was your cock fluffed in the armpit thirst trap photo that went viral on Twitter, or I mean X, whatever you want to call it.
Bakunin lover crash out. Dude, you can't know what Bakunin is and then also simultaneously be like, this is a crash out. Like, you just can't do that. That's unacceptable. Okay? You at least present yourself as far more well-read to be entertaining such frivolous, childish things.
Mr. Piker, the American people.
I was not fluffed. People say I'm fluffed on that. I wasn't. I should, though. Okay? I should fluff it. I'll fluff it next time. Maybe. Why are people getting too liberal with the word crash out? Why do you give the haters so much energy? Please just ignore them. Oh my God. These aren't haters. These are dummy fans who are just behaving in ways that piss me off more than the fucking haters do. I can deal with the haters. I can deal with like stupid reactionary people. I can try to talk to them, talk some sense into them. But when it's a chatter, it's just like so disappointing. That's the problem. Anyway, I am not allowed to wash my face for the next 24 hours, pretty much. I'm not even allowed to touch my face for the next 24 hours. So it's going to be quite difficult, but we are here. We're going to get started on a lot of the news. Like I said, there's so much happening. Larry David wrote an op-ed, My Dinner with Adolf, talking about Bill Maher's dinner with Gadolf. And obviously Bill Maher has some choice words for Larry David. And a lot of people have actually gotten mad at Larry David in the process. Like E. Fatlo has been talking about how Larry himself, how Larold himself is actually, oh my God, everyone's going to fucking link the Taps clip today. E. Fatlo and other Israel defenders have been kind of losing their minds over Larry David because they're like, he is not sufficiently pro-Israel, which I think is really funny because I'm going to be honest with you, there is very little chance that Larry David isn't even like a little bit pro-Israel. Like, I'm gonna be honest, this man, I love Larry. I love Larry David. I think he's amazing. I think he is a incredible comedic mind. I've talked about this quite a bit in terms of like who has played a major role in my understanding of the world. But if you think Larry David isn't like pro-Israel to at least a pretty decent degree, come on. He's definitely he's not anti-Israel. He's not an anti-Zionist. But Larold, on the other hand, okay, he is a one brilliant room reader and two gets annoyed easily. Okay, so what that means is he probably fucking hates how annoying the pro-Israeli crowd is. Like, that is my assessment. That's my assessment as someone who is incredibly parasocially invested in Larry David and all of the things that he's done, and has felt kind of disappointed by him donating money to who was it? Who was the campaign that he donated to? I think it was like Pete Buttigieg or something that like killed me. I was like, come on, Larry, you should know better than that. But yeah, I remember when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah. But yeah, Larold is I would, if I were to parasocially make an assessment on this, like I would most likely categorize him as someone who is, of course, pro-Israel, but like knows better than to just like constantly chirp about it. What is this clip?
So, you know, a lot of sexual harassment stuff in the news of late, and I couldn't help but notice a very disturbing pattern emerging, which is that many of the predators, not all, but many of them, are Jews.
He's a very funny dude. Okay, what is this? If you want evidence that Larry David is a self-hating Jew, just watch him commit a hate crime against another Jewish man, then be applauded by Hamas terrorists. Just awful. Yeah, this was the one. All of this happened, by the way. All of this happened because Larry David wrote this article, which is correct, about Bill Maher's bitch ass going and having a dinner with Donald Trump, who is a fascist. Okay? So Larry David fucking writes this New York Times op-ed, and then Bill Maher loses his mind. If you want to understand the timeline here, Bill Maher, incredibly annoying guy, as you know, one of the arch villains of this broadcast. Doesn't know who I am, doesn't matter. I just despise this person. He is basically everything that I hate about liberalism wrapped up into one annoying, smug, entitled asshole package with a shit ton of alcohol that is like basically on an IV drip on his fucking arm. Now, that douchebag has always been an anti-Trump douchebag. Bill Maher is the type of person, the prototype of annoying, arrogant, entitled douchebag liberal who thinks he's more intelligent than the average dumb hog, but demonstrates the exact same qualities of the average dumb hog and basically believes in almost all of the things that the average dumb hog believes, but still has to be a fucking annoying douchebag about it, where he's like, I don't like trans people, but I intellectualize my hatred for trans people. You don't like trans people because you're stupid and uneducated. I hate trans people because I'm educated about the matters. Like that type of guy. And he hated Donald Trump for his entire fucking career, right? Like the first 4 years, he said a bunch of annoying shit about it. People would yell at Bill Maher all the fucking time, whatever, right? Now, this time around, he went to Papa, okay? He kissed the ring. He went to the White House. He dropped the pretense. He dropped the whole, like, I'm anti-Trump shit. And he basically said, like, yeah, I've been sued by Trump a bunch of times, but honestly, he's actually pretty smart behind the scenes. He was so nice to me. 100 millionaire who also is a fucking douchebag racist. I wonder why he was so nice to me. And of course, you know, people are annoyed by it. People in Hollywood are annoyed by it. Larry David is one of those people that is annoyed by it. So he wrote this article, Larry David, My Dinner with Adolf at New York Times, which for the record is correct, is a correct assessment to make. Okay? He wrote this article, and Bill Maher got really fucking pissed off at him and did the classic. Again, these guys are all free speech defenders, right? Bill Maher loves free speech, right? Immediately was like, it's actually Holocaust revisionism to compare Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler, and you basically are, disrespectful to the 6 million Jews that were slaughtered by Adolf Hitler. That's what he hit. He hit the this is disrespectful to the victims of the Holocaust line so fast in a conversation that he was having with, I forget who he was talking to. I think it was some right-wing guy that he was talking to. Bill Maher, a guy with no personal lineage connection to the Holocaust, from what I understand, is tone policing a literal fucking Holocaust survivor descendant. Yeah, Bill Maher didn't even know he was Jewish until later in his life. Like, he fucking grew up Catholic, dude. He is the most Catholic-coded motherfucker out there, for the record. Just so you know, he's Mr. Religulous. I hate all religion. I'm an atheist, by the way, and I like to smoke weed. Have I told you I like to smoke weed? Oh, it was him talking to fucking... Yeah, I didn't even know he was Jewish until like a couple years ago. Yeah, he grew up thinking he was Catholic, at least his whole fucking life, and then like found out that he had a Jewish lineage like later, I think. I'm pretty sure. Seriously, I always thought he was Jewish. Bro, he has, first of all, that's anti-Semitic, okay? No, if you look at his energy and his vibes, he has the most annoying douchebag Christian pompous know-it-all attitude. Okay? No. There's a very different vibe to I literally did not know that he was Jewish until recently, or at least has like Jewish lineage. And I was shocked when I found out. He just has the most waspy attitude. I don't know how to describe it, even though he's not a wasp. He's a fucking Catholic. But like he has the waspiest attitude. That's it. That's like he sounds and behaves exactly like an annoying, entitled, arrogant, northeastern wasp know-it-all who thinks he knows better than you about everything, even though he is a fucking moron. Okay? So pompous, so arrogant. Also, if he was Jewish, he'd be funnier, okay? Automatically. That's it. That's the other side of the equation. Like, he's just so unfunny that I think it's fucked up and disrespectful to American Jews to say Bill Maher is an American Jew. Okay? You can't make that joke. Well, I just did. Okay, shut up. So, of course, Bill Maher himself has compared Trump's children to Nazis, obviously, because that's, classic, right? Classic. I mean, this was back in 2016. But now he's saying it's disrespectful to the Holocaust victims to compare his situation to his dinner to having dinner with Adolf. Okay. Where does anyone have the clip where he talks to Piers Morgan? Do you guys have that clip? I want to pull it up. I want to pull up the Bill Maher clip, like him complaining about the article. Or I guess like we can start off by reading this article. It's only 4 minutes long. Larry David says, imagine my surprise when in the spring of 1939, a letter arrived at my house inviting me to dinner at the old chancellery with the world's most reviled man, Adolf Hitler. I'd been a vocal critic of his on the radio from the beginning, pretty much predicting everything he was going to do on the road to dictatorship. No one I knew encouraged me to go. He's Hitler. He's a monster. But eventually I concluded that hate gets us nowhere. I knew I couldn't change his views, but we need to talk to the other side, even if it has invaded and annexed other countries and committed unspeakable crimes against humanity. 2 weeks later, I found myself on the front of the steps of the old chancellery, and I was led into an opulent living room where a few of the Fuhrer's most vocal supporters had gathered. Himmler, Goering, Leni Riefenstahl, and the Duke of Windsor, formerly King Edward VIII. We talked about some beautiful art on the walls that had been taken from the homes of Jews. But our conversation abruptly ended when we heard loud footsteps coming down the hallway. Everyone stiffened as Hitler entered the room. He was wearing a tan suit with a swastika armband and gave me an enthusiastic greeting that caught me off guard. Frankly, it was a warmer greeting than I normally get from my parents, and it was accompanied by a slap on my back. I found the whole thing quite disarming. I joked that I was surprised to see him in a tan suit because if he wore that out, it would be perceived as un-Fuhrer-like. That amused him to no end, and I realized I'd never seen him laugh before. Suddenly, he seemed so human. Here I was prepared to meet Hitler, the one I'd seen and heard, the public Hitler. But this private Hitler was a completely different animal. And oddly enough, this one seemed more authentic, like this was a real Hitler. The whole thing had my head spinning. You know what's really funny about this? It is verbatim the Bill Maher monologue, and he just changed out the names of the people and the way that Bill Maher reflected on his meeting with Donald Trump with Adolf Hitler and his cadre of freaks. That's it. This entire op-ed is just literally bar for bar what Bill Maher said about meeting Donald Trump. Yeah, and he had a convo with Piers Morgan here. We'll take a look at that, of course. Bill Maher talking about his dinner with Trump at 8:30. And then afterwards, we'll get to the Larry David piece that he was upset about at 11:30 in that video. But he said he was starving and led us into the dining room where he gestured me to sit next to him. Goering immediately grabbed a slice of pumpernickel, whereupon Hitler turned to me, gave me an eye roll, and then whispered, "Watch. He'll be done with his entire meal before you've taken 2 bites." That one really got me. Goering, with his mouth full, asked what was so funny, and Hitler said, "I was just telling him about the time my dog had diarrhea in the Reichstag." Goering remembered. How could he forget? He loved that story, especially the part where Hitler shot the dog before it got back into the car. Then a beaming Hitler said, "Hey, if I could kill Jews, gypsies, and homosexuals, I could certainly kill a dog." That certainly got the biggest laugh of the night, and believe me, there were plenty. But it wasn't just a one-way street with the Fuhrer dominating the conversation. He was quite inquisitive and asked me a lot of questions about myself. I told him I had just gone through a brutal breakup with my girlfriend because every time I went someplace without her, she was always insistent that I tell her everything I talked about. I can't stand having to remember every detail of every conversation. Hitler said he could relate. He hated that too. What am I, a secretary? He advised me. It was best not to behave anymore. It was best not to have any more contact with her, or else I'd be right back where I started, and eventually I'd have to go through the whole thing all over again. I said it must be easy. It must be easy for a dictator to go through a breakup. He said, "You'd be surprised. There are still feelings." There are still feelings. That really resonated with me. We're not that different after all. I thought that if only the world could see this side of him, people might have a completely different opinion. 2 hours later, the dinner was over, and the Fuhrer escorted me to the door. "I am so glad to have met you. I hope I'm no longer the monster you thought I was. I must say, mein Führer, I'm so thankful I came. Although we disagree on many issues, it doesn't mean that we have to hate each other." And with that, I gave him a Nazi salute and walked out into the night. So he basically just said, he basically just wrote this article. It's a satirical op-ed talking about, comparing Bill Maher's experience normalizing and like defending Donald Trump to Bill Maher doing this for Adolf Hitler, right? And that's an understandable comparison to make. It's one that Bill Maher has made time and time again. And especially in his second term, if you guys remember, if you were in here in the first Trump tenure, I said over and over again that he was a proto-fascist, that he wasn't a full-blown fascist, that he did not have the ideological motivation to implement fascist policies, even though there was a lot of white nativist policies that he implemented. But he wasn't like trying to, he wasn't coherent enough in his worldview where he was trying to implement some sort of like administrative control in the same way, right? And I was right. In the first term, he was a proto-fascist. He had the instincts for it. Fine. That's narcissism. That works really well. But this time, it's a little different. Why? Because all of that narcissism and vengeance is allowing him to perfectly align with the interests of the Republican Party in perpetuity that wanted to do unitary executive committee, a unitary executive theory that is now giving Trump, or rather, Trump is a perfect vessel for these sorts of actions. And they have been taking steps to implement this agenda. We are here already, right? We're here. They arrested a judge yesterday. They arrested a judge, claiming that the judge was actually obstructing justice, right? So TMR played this clip today from 2018 at 6:27 of Bill saying the exact same thing to Geraldo. Where is it? At 6:27?
Oh, they're both.
You know Trump is my friend. I've known Trump for 40 years.
I don't have to.
I don't have to.
He didn't.
So did Trump.
He didn't.
So did Trump. I interviewed Trump about OJ during the trial.
He didn't remain my friend when I felt he had a certain moral lapse.
Well, in my family, my wife agrees with you. She doesn't like his policies on so many things that I already listed, so she just can't stand the guy. I'm different. I can separate the man who's always been gracious to me, always been nice to my family. You know, we were on Celebrity Apprentice together every day for 6 weeks. I've known him really through every aspect.
Shit. He's running the world now. What does that matter that he was nice to you at Thanksgiving? I'm not trying to be an asshole to you. You're a smart guy. This befuddles me. I looked up to you.
You know, if you don't look up to me because I'm still friends with the President of the United States, then shame on you, not on me.
I don't look up to you because the President of the United States is doing the things that he's doing.
Who liberated the developmentally disabled? I mean, seriously. Who stood shoulder to shoulder with the GIs in all of those places?
Yeah, so he's a hypocrite. We know that already because Bill Maher got access this time around. This is from 7 years ago. Remember, April 6, 2018. Now Bill Maher is doing the Geraldo Rivera take, ironically enough. And it's actually really interesting that he's doing it right now because Trump is even worse than he was the last term. Trump is worse than he was the last time around. This isn't to say that he was fine the last time around. I think the comparisons of Trump being a fascist or comparisons to Adolf Hitler were perfectly apt even back then. But it is hilarious to me. It is hilarious to me that he has now watched this administration become even more competent, okay, as his popularity is cratering due to a multitude of different fucking reasons. And Bill Maher's like, now is my time. Now is my time to shine. I will defend him from the reasonable center. It is insane to me. Do you have the Zaid thread? I want to see the Zaid Jelani thread of Bill Maher calling Trump Hitler over and over again. I think part of the reason why, Bill Maher complained about Larry David's satirical op-ed saying that making jokes invoking Hitler is insulting the Jews. Now, there are a million different instances where the human version of fucking Brian Griffin, Bill Maher, actually that's an insult to Brian Griffin, I'm not going to lie, but Brian Griffin's human version, I guess, but a significantly worse version of Brian Griffin, has made these comparisons, okay? He's made these comparisons and a lot more. And yet here he is crying to Piers Morgan about Larry David making this apt comparison.
People have been in the news that entire time. Donald Trump Elon Musk and Bill Maher. So my first question is, do you like being the story rather than talking about the stories?
You know,
Yeah, the fascist was nice to me, therefore he's forgiven. The white supremacist was nice to me, a white person, therefore he's forgiven. Yeah, it's like when people who are pro-Israel will be like, "Oh, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I went to Israel and it was awesome." It's like, yeah, dude, you defend Israel. Like, of course especially if you're Jewish or Christian and you're a prominent defender of Israel, if you're Douglas Murray and you're there to do a propaganda tour, yeah, they're not gonna treat you poorly. Okay? Yeah, no shit. You fucking moron. It's so dumb. Of course Trump is nice to you. You're also a very wealthy, rich Hollywood douchebag. Trump fucking loves those guys. If you're Jewish but have never stepped foot in Israel, they will literally give you land. Like, what are we talking about? It's like, dude, it's awesome. I don't understand what you're talking about, dude. I fucking grew up here and they want to give me a free house in the West Bank. The fuck do you mean? It's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome to you. That's kind of the problem. That's the whole point that we're making here. It's awesome to some and really bad for others. You know, others who used to be in the fucking house that is now being offered to you for free. Thank you for the gifties of an up TV. Thank you for the 10 gifties.
What comes with the territory, I never try to do that. You know, it's a little more going on in the week, but I've been through it enough that, you know, it's like, it's actually flattering that people really think that I have.
Oh, he's been through so much. Dude, he is such a victim, dude. He is such a victim, dude. He is, God, society will never live down the shame of harming this beautiful man over and over again. Oh, it's flattering. Everyone's shitting on me for being an annoying little douchebag and also being one of the most prominent annoying liberals who actively hated on Donald Trump, which was valid to do, by the way, only to turn around and be like, well, he extended an open hand to me, so now I'm actually going to tell you he's fine. He's great. Good dude. Real good guy, actually. Real smart guy behind the scenes. That's what he said. That was what was so crazy. The fact that his take was, well, you know, I thought Trump was an idiot and that's why I hated him, but it turns out he just presents himself as an idiot on television. That makes it worse, man. That makes it worse. That makes the situation worse. That means he's like deliberately. I don't even believe Bill Maher on that, by the way. I do think Trump. Hey, Fiona! Hey, stop barking. Oh my God. All right, get out. Out. Okay. I'll let him. No, Fiona, leave. Go over there. Okay. She's getting old. It's going to be like that. Yeah, she barks at my dad all the time. And now she's like wagging her tail. Bubba, yeah, grab Fiona. Fiona, go. Why are you so mean to Fiona? You should see the way Marat handles it. We don't want her barking at my dad all the time. I don't know why. Yeah, Trump did sue him. Sudden barking out of nowhere pisses me off so much because it gets my heart going. Yeah, it scares the shit out of me when she does it. Anyway, where was I before my dad came in? Well, he thinks he's so smart, of course, so he searches similarities to his president. So, look, the point I was making, glazing Bill Maher, I was not glazing Bill Maher. Bill Maher's pivot to Donald Trump. No, Fiona, no. Get away. No. Fiona, no. Go to your bed. Go to the couch. Oh gosh, she's gonna. No, Fiona. Fiona, no. She's trying to push through the gate now. She's literally trying to push through the gate. She's like, oh no, I have to come in here. Okay. Gonna go to the couch. Baba Chadar, Mr. Norea. Go. Fiona, go. Go. No, go. Go over there. Oh God. Fiona can't be imprisoned. No, she wants to be imprisoned. She wants to be imprisoned. Anyway, my point that I was trying to make was this, okay? Trump being intelligent behind closed doors or being incredibly stupid behind closed doors doesn't matter. Trump's actions and the implementation of his agenda is what matters. The impact of the president's actions is what matters. George W. Bush was a moron. George W. Bush also is one of the worst presidents in American history of all time. A global destabilizer. Did he make those decisions personally? No, Dick Cheney did. We all know that, but it does not matter. The fact that Dick Cheney was the mastermind and the architect behind the war on terror does not change the reality that George W. Bush signed off on it as the president, and therefore he is still culpable. Okay? And what's frustrating about Bill Maher is like he's like, oh well, you know, he made it seem as though the optics were the biggest flaw for Donald Trump, the biggest reason as to why Bill Maher does not like, the biggest reason as to why Bill Maher doesn't like Donald Trump. It's because he thought he was like an incompetent fool. And he said he was going to continue criticizing him, but it's like, you know, it rings hollow when you say, well, he was nice to me, and I was shocked by how nice to me he was. We know Donald Trump likes Hollywood, okay? We know that. We know that's a major motivator, and you are the manifestation of liberal Hollywood. Donald Trump has always had deep resentment towards the liberal elite, not because the liberal elite have destroyed the country, but because the liberal elite always refused to entertain Donald Trump as one of them. That was the major point of contention for Donald Trump. That's why he hates the liberal elite so much. No, Fiona. Oh, my God. But it doesn't end there. It does not end there, okay? Your hair looks amazing today. Thank you.
Somehow this important, which I plainly don't. It's ridiculous. You know, I mean, I was offered a chance to actually sit down for an extended period of time in a private setting with the one person who has dominated all of our lives, whether you like him or not, for the last 10 years. That's just not deniable. I took it. I can't imagine why anybody wouldn't take it. Just can I see the Trumpadopoulos up close? I'm going to get to see it, and then you know what the only thing that bugs me about it is they don't give me proper credit for it. And then I went back to my day job, tearing him a new asshole, and never stopped before the dinner, never stopped after the dinner, and during, because I said lots of things to him that you would think liberals would love that a guy said right to his face. You didn't win the election, and birtherism was vile, and you know what. You know, I said to him, you're scaring people. Why do you want to scare people so much? So, like, I haven't changed at all. And the fact that it made so many people hysterical, not most people, by the way. I mean, I've certainly heard from zillions, and yeah, it's mostly very positive. But yeah, there are some people, sometimes surprising people.
From tariffs to market turmoil, things are looking pretty rough out there. Well, our sponsor, American Hartford Gold, has an answer.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks, Pierce. The second part of the conversation starts at 11:45. Larry David's criticisms of Bill's Trump dinner. We read the article already. We read the satirical New York Times article already. Okay.
You know, look, I don't want to get in too much into that, but I think the minute you play the Hitler card,
That's what I think.
You've lost the argument.
Yes.
Oh, the minute you've played the Hitler card, you've lost the argument. I would never. Are you saying you lost the fucking argument then? How is he that blind? He's falling into the article. He's like, yeah, he's like Hitler, but he's been super popular for the past 10 years. Exactly. Everything I don't like is Adolf Hitler. Dude, what is the point? What is the point when you can make a Hitler comparison? Where do we get to make this comparison? What is the reason for learning about Adolf Hitler? What is the reason for learning about the Holocaust? What is the reason for learning about any genocide whatsoever? Why is there even a international organ of justice that prosecutes such things if you can never make this comparison? This is incredibly stupid. It is an incredibly stupid argument to make. The entire purpose of learning about the Holocaust and learning about Adolf Hitler is so you can make this comparison when that comparison is valid. Okay? For Donald Trump, especially in the second term, what more do you need to see? This is a country that at least had a crumb of liberalism in terms of protecting First Amendment rights, allowing people to have freedom of speech, free association, free expression, free press. And, you know, America certainly hasn't been the best on that throughout its entire history, especially when it comes to prosecuting radical leftists, anarchists, trade unionists, and the like, communists in general. But having said that, like in the last 20, 30 years, there's this notion that America is supposed to still maintain some semblance of defending free speech, right? That's what America is about. There's nothing else that you can point to as far as like the last bastion of liberalism. Okay? Free speech and due process. Those are the two good things. It comes down, maybe not even free speech, but like due process especially comes all the way down from like the Magna Carta tradition. Okay? This is like 1,000 fucking years basically of trying to get this thing right. Donald Trump taking that away is the most Hitlerian thing he could do. It's insane that more people are not angry about this all the goddamn time, partially because they are so incredibly invested in managing the unpopularity of the apartheid state doing a live streamed child holocaust. As I tweeted about last night, I said, actively trying to manage the unfavorability of an apartheid state that's doing a live streamed child holocaust has collapsed the already limited credibility the West had about defending liberal democratic values. This is what happened in Germany. A pro-Palestine activist was convicted in Berlin for incitement to racial hatred for asking, have we learned nothing from the Holocaust? You have the FBI busting down the doors of pro-Palestinian American activists, American citizens who are pro-Palestinian student activists. FBI's breaking into their houses. You have the State Department revoking people's visas left and right, trying to kickstart a deportation process for them for the crime of writing a student newspaper article about Israel. Not even about America, just Israel. This is the last bastion. This is the last battle for preserving any semblance of liberalism and liberal protections in the West. Okay, once all of this falls apart, it's done. It's over. The whole Western world is entirely fascist. The most indefensible version of fascism and the most indestructible version of fascism is upon us. This is why I say this is a scary time to be alive, because there is no anti-fascist counterbalance here. There's no like allied coalition, and it's here. And of course, people will say this was happening for quite a while, and I understand that. I am an anti-capitalist in the United States of America. This accelerated post 9/11, but it existed before 9/11 as well. But it scales upwards, okay? It is an unstoppable force unless someone just says, we're done with this. We have to go back. We have to return to the tradition of liberal democracy, at least theoretical liberal democracy. Do you understand? Because throughout time, we've had the McCarthyist trials, we've had purges, we've had internment camps for the Japanese during World War II. We've had dark moments in recent U.S. history as well, right? That's true. But all of those dark moments have marginally moved the needle in this direction to finally get to a position where someone who has the motivation, and the Trump administration certainly has that motivation, to just completely rewrite this fundamental principle. And once it's rewritten, once that precedent is set, it doesn't matter how you open that door. It can be over Israel, it can be over anti-Semitism, it can be over whatever you want to have that conversation over. But once that precedent is gone, once that legal protection is gone, once due process is gone, it is impossible. It is impossible to return to a system where those values will be preserved without some kind of violent revolution or some kind of military coup. Okay? So the fact that people are sleepwalking towards this, the very fact that people are sleepwalking through this entire process, where like, this administration is taking some severe actions against the First Amendment in broad daylight over and over again. And couching this under immigration enforcement, or national security concerns, and the Democrats are not making a bigger fuss out of this is psychotic to me. The fact that you have assholes like Bill Maher also running around and talking about how great Donald Trump is and how nice of a guy he actually was to him is doubly insane. This isn't fear-mongering. This is telling you what is going on. It's not fear-mongering at all. Fear-mongering would be if I was a right-wing person and I was talking about how they're going to black bag us and put us in FEMA facilities for saying that Barack Obama is actually a Muslim agent. That was fear-mongering. This is real. Every single time right-wingers have talked about First Amendment violations because, I don't know, they said the N-word and got banned off Facebook. That was fear-mongering. That's not a real violation of the First Amendment. A real violation of the First Amendment is when the government interferes in free speech, when the government offers penalties for free speech, for exercising your free speech. Fear-mongering is when right-wingers say they're coming after your guns. Fear-mongering is when people say they're coming after Christianity. That's fear-mongering. There is no real threat to any of these things. This is real. This is happening right now. This is just me explaining what is happening at this very moment. So if you feel fear when you understand the things that I'm saying, my warnings, if you heed my warnings and you feel fear, that means you recognize the damage and you recognize the potential long-term impacts, okay? When someone says, they'll throw you in the slammer for saying Merry Christmas, brother, that's fear-mongering. That's not real. Do you understand? That's not a real thing. That's not happening. You're just making that up. But when you say what is currently taking place, someone got black bagged in the middle of the street by plainclothes ICE officers for the crime, in air quotes, of writing an article that criticized a foreign nation. That's not me fear-mongering. That's what literally took place with Rumeysa Öztürk. That is precisely what happened. She's a Fulbright scholar at Tufts University. And the reason why they fucking put her in a detainment facility was because she wrote an article criticizing a foreign state. And it's on video. It's not like this is speculation. It is straight up on video. Yeah, you can't say we are crying wolf if there is a wolf in front of you, okay, and the wolf is howling, and you see the wolf on tape, on video. Then there is literally a wolf there. You're not just crying wolf. There's a fucking wolf. I'm pointing to the wolf.
And also, I must say, you know, come on, man. Hitler, Nazis, nobody has been harder about and more prescient, I must say, about Donald Trump than me. I don't need to be lectured on who Donald Trump is. Just the fact that I met him in person.
Well, it seems like you do need that. It seems like you need that, considering the commentary that you engaged in.
Didn't change that. And the fact that I reported honestly is not a sin either. But, you know, to use the Hitler thing, first of all, I just think it's kind of insulting to 6 million dead Jews. You know, like that should kind of be in its own place in history.
Oh my God, Holocaust exceptionalist Bill Maher talking to a person who is a direct descendant of Holocaust survivors. Shut the fuck up, dude. Oh my God. Oh my God. Anyway, here are all the moments where Bill Maher's fucking brought up Hitler.
New rule, the manager at the grocery store has to stop acting like he's some big shit because he's the one who has the key. Admit it, despite appearing frustrated because Janelle on Register 3 pressed the wrong button, you love it. You love it, don't you, Rick? Because, ooh, that gives you a chance to make your big entrance and save the day. Because only you have the precious key. You know, like it's the ring from The Hobbit. You're pathetic, Rick. I can't believe we dated.
Bill Maher, Trump a little Hitler adjacent.
Right.
2022, Bill Maher compared Trudeau to Hitler. Justin Trudeau.
Said, but they take up space. And with that, we have to make a choice in terms of a leader as a country. Do we tolerate these people? It's like, tolerate them. Now you do sound like Hitler.
That was...
And recently...
Same year, he said J.D. Vance and Elisa Stefanik were talking like Nazis. He cracked the joke saying Melania is Mrs. Hitler. 2016, Bill Maher did a segment comparing Trump's speeches to Hitler's. It is an apt comparison to make. And I'm not going to say it's an apt comparison for Justin Trudeau, which is pretty funny because I think Justin Trudeau was talking about like anti-vaxxers and the constant complaints from anti-vaxxers. But Bill Maher, of course, being perennially on the wrong side of every fucking argument, decided to, I guess, be on the anti-vaxxer side of that one. Yeah. The only people you can compare to the Nazis is Hamas. Only Hamas is comparable to Adolf Hitler. Okay?
And, you know, I know people can say, well, we're just comparing it in this way. Well, it's an argument you kind of lost just to start it. It's just, look, maybe it's not.
I mean, hilarious, once again, because he has done this on numerous occasions. On numerous occasions. God damn, dude. What a fucking loser this guy is. Oh my God. Hitler comparisons can be apt or can be ridiculous. Holocaust comparisons can be apt or can be ridiculous. Okay? I'll give you an example. Something that I saw from former ambassador to Israel, David Friedman. Okay? Hold on. Where is it? We can make these assessments on our own. Okay? Served as U.S. ambassador from 2017 to 2021. David Friedman. He posted this, comparing October 7 to the Holocaust. Insane. There is an apt comparison between October 7 and the Holocaust. It's just not one that David M. Friedman would ever entertain. And that would be the Warsaw Ghetto Intifada, the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. That would be an apt comparison. But of course, you know, that would brick his brain probably. So here's an example of a ridiculous comparison, a laughable comparison, which David M. Friedman defends by saying, sometimes I'm just embarrassed and mortified by the ignorance and malice of those who troll me. Seeing the Auschwitz tattoo on the left arm below, some morons think that they've discovered a rebuttal to the indisputable fact that about 1 million Jews were murdered at the Auschwitz death camp. They think it's a 5-digit number means that there can be no more than 100,000 victims. Well, folks, here's some uncomfortable history for you. The numbers were assigned only to those who were placed on work details, which is why most survivors have numbers on their arms. The vast majority of the Jewish victims were sent immediately for what they were told were disinfecting showers. Those showers sprayed deadly gas, causing their asphyxiation, and their lifeless bodies then were shoveled off to the crematoria to be reduced to ash. Sorry, morons, to pour cold water on your brilliant discovery. Here he is responding to Holocaust deniers that are clowning on him, I guess. Okay? The irony, of course, is that this mechanized death and destruction from a far more powerful fucking state apparatus is ironically closer to what Israel has been doing for the past 76 years than the organic, spontaneous militancy that has developed as a consequence of said apartheid and said genocidal settler colonial regime. But good luck. Good luck explaining that to anybody who's like, nah, I'm pro-Israel. Doesn't fucking matter to me. It's crazy. It's crazy to use the Holocaust to continue. It's crazy to use the Holocaust to continue defending an apartheid state that is doing its own version of the live stream child Holocaust in full display of the rest of the universe. Insane. So morally depraved. Having said that, however, as I have done in this process, comparisons between the Holocaust and what Israel is doing are totally apt because it is a fucking violent, rabid ethno-state built around an exterminationist ethno-religious supremacist ideology. That is literally what the Nazis were doing as well, constantly looking for additional land for living space. It is almost a one-to-one comparison. The only difference is they don't have concentration camps where they're murdering people, 100 people at a time. That's the only difference. Instead of that, they're bombing them. That's it.
Completely logically fair, but Hitler has really kind of got to stay in his own place. He is the goat of evil, and we're just going to have to, I think, leave it like that. So, you know, did I think that was appropriate? No, but people have the right to.
Did you know he was going to do it?
Of course not. And people.
So how did you find out?
You know, my publicist said, this is going on today, and you should know it. And I was like, oh, okay. You know, I mean.
Have you had any contact with him since?
No. And that's okay.
I'm the real victim here. I'm the real victim. How dare Larry David compare Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler? How dare he? I'm Mr. Free Speech, but I loved hanging out with the guy that is finally delivering the death blow to free speech as it stands in America. Remember how intellectually and morally bankrupt all of these fucking supposed free speech defenders are? Remember that. These are all free speech defenders, chatters. Remember that. From Bill Maher to Ben Shapiro to Barry Weiss to all of these right-wing commentators that were supposedly for free speech, every single one of them is an intellectual fraud. Every single one of them has demonstrated their moral depravity. Because right now, Asmongold, another great example, okay? Every single person that has been like, I love free speech, turns out the only reason why they quote-unquote love free speech was to defend people saying hate speech. That's it. Nothing else. Nothing else. When the moment came, and in broad daylight, the administration decided to take action against people exercising their First Amendment rights to criticize not even the United States of America, but a fucking foreign nation, calling out the atrocities, and all of these dipshits are quiet or championing it. They're either not saying anything about it on purpose because they know how hypocritical it looks, or they're championing it without even caring about how hypocritical it looks.
Okay, look, my whole reason to go to the White House, you know, I said it right at the beginning of the speech I made about it, was, you know, talking to Kid Rock right here, and we were just like, there's got to be a better way than just hurling insults from 3,000 miles away. I mean, maybe, you know, nothing will come of this, but what I know nothing will come from is pretending to ignore the person who has all the power. Democrats have no power. So to think that your method of running out of the room screaming, I'm not talking to you, maybe my thing has a 1% chance of succeeding. Yours definitely has 0.
Not 0. And the final thing I'd say about the Larry David thing is I read it. I was just like you.
I find it really strange because, like, it's not like, dude, it's not like he had that conversation and, like, convinced Donald Trump to not do some of the things that he's doing. Like, you have to look at this. You have to look at what took place here. Bill Maher going and visiting Donald Trump and having this, like, back and forth and whatever. And in the aftermath of that back and forth, like, how he accounted that or recounted that experience, right? In that process, who won? Okay, who gained more out of that? If Bill Maher seemingly cared about upholding these, like, liberal values, for example, okay, did he get anything out of that other than, you know, having direct access to Donald Trump? No, he didn't get shit out of it. It's not like he was able to convince Donald Trump to stop, I don't know, deporting people. You didn't get anything. You got a fucking Trump hat, and Trump got a lot out of it. He got a hater, a liberal, a very loud liberal hater of his who only hated him on the optics anyway. He didn't have real fucking smoke for Donald Trump in the way that, like, I do, for example. He got that guy to turn around and say nice things about him. So you got duped by a moron, is my point. Like, that's what's so crazy about it. This guy is not the most brilliant guy. You understand? Donald Trump is not the most brilliant guy at all. He's constantly getting duped. He's getting duped by people in his immediate orbit. He's getting duped by China. He has he got duped by Vladimir Putin, famously, where he thought that Vladimir Putin actually cared about him, I guess. That's why he said, Vladimir, stop, Putin, stop. This happened yesterday. And Bill Maher, in all of his seemingly intellectual superiority complex, in all this time, Bill Maher thought he was intellectually superior to Donald Trump and Trump supporters. And it turns out that fucking dumbass was able to dupe him in the same way that others have duped that dumbass. What happened? How'd this happen?
The moment I saw Hitler.
Yeah, okay. And then the rest of it is just like complaining about Adolf, okay? But yeah. So Larry David writes this article. He fucking complains about it, even though he has time and time again made this exact same comparison. And then, of course, all of the Israel defenders have been running around chirping since then, saying Larry David hasn't once said anything about the hostages. Fatlow's mad. Proper mad at Larry David. Proper fucking mad. I'm so mad. I've shorted my pants. I thought I was Fatlow. Turns out it was Shatlow. Yeah, I'm using her hate name. I'm pretty sure it started with this fucking TikTok. Let's take a look at this. Yeah, here.
This message is for Larry David, and if you're not Larry David, please keep on scrolling. Larry, the fact that you have not...
This is so funny because this, like she is a Curb Your Enthusiasm character. This is what's her name? This is literally the wife. Come on, chat. What? Susie, exactly. This is just a Susie archetype, okay? Larry, you haven't said a single fucking thing about the hostages, Larry. Don't you know? You have to side with your tribe. These people don't care about you, Larry. You fucking asshole. You bald fuck, Larry. You sick fuck. Oh, it's so awesome. Oh, what the fuck? How is your Susie so good? Because I am a fucking real one. I'm such a real one. I'm such a real fucking Larry David fan. HBO still sends me promotional material for Curb Your Enthusiasm. Even HBO knows I fucking love Larold.
said a word about the atrocities of October 7th. Not a word about the...
This literally is a Curb bit. I'm losing my mind. This is straightforwardly a Curb bit.
Harassment and violence against Jews all over this country. But this is what you choose to speak out on. Bill Maher's meeting with Trump at the White House, because you have such a severe case of Trump derangement syndrome that it makes you absolutely insane. You can't imagine how Bill Maher, a human, would want to have a conversation with another human that he doesn't agree with. That just rocks your world. But slaughter, rape, and kidnapping of Jews on October 7th? Yeah, no, you're fine with that. Trump is the same as Hitler. Yeah, totally different behind the scenes, different personality, but just the same. I mean, you should be ashamed of yourself. This is exactly what is wrong with liberal Jews who put politics before existence. Okay? So if you're not Larry David and you watch this, thank you for watching and please share it. But if you are Larry David, I hope you will seriously consider your role in the demise of Jewish civilization.
It's so good. Come on, dude. Look. All I'm going to say is this. Palestinian chicken episode aside, I think Larry David probably is not an anti-Zionist, okay? And I say this as someone who is a firm and committed defender of Larold David, as someone who is a major fan of Larry David, as someone who has talked about how Larry David is incredibly important, like a formative comic in my development, okay? But Larry David also fucking probably is super annoyed. probably is super annoyed with this type of commentary. Okay? So I feel like the more he has most likely encountered this sort of commentary in his personal life, and I'm being very parasocial when I say this, the less likely it is that he will say anything that is even remotely fucking pro-Israel, because he is a diehard liberal at his heart. This is some of the same exact motivations that I think, maybe not to the same degree, but like it's the Bernie Sanders phenomena. You know what I mean? He says liberal Zionist shit from the main stage where people are like, dude, what are you saying? What do you mean Israel has a right to defend itself? But you never see him take action against the pro-Palestinian side of the conversation, and he doesn't spend any time on that. And as a matter of fact, he highlights the pro-Palestinian side of the conversation. But you know, his own personal contradictions are still obviously there. Okay? It's because Larry David most likely, you know, understands that this is an indefensible position. What is this? Top political commentator on Twitch, by the way. Society would instantly and dramatically improve if we took the bottom 5 to 10 most R-worded kids out of school and put them in the coal mines instead. Almost all Western cultural problems are derived from adherence to the false god of equality. I do like that Asmongold thinks that he wouldn't be in the 5 to 10% most R-worded kids in school. Like this is when Nicolas Fuentes, who is a Hispanic man, is talking about white supremacy and his fucking last name is Fuentes. Yeah, dude, you definitely wouldn't be in the fucking coal mines, brother. But then you'd have no viewers. Exactly. Stunting our bright kids for the sake of the bottom quintile is going to ruin this country, says Reddit lies. Such a scheme were to be implemented. Did you read the Atlantic article on you and Asmon? Wait, the Atlantic wrote an article about me and Asmongold? What the fuck? There was an Asmon feature in the Atlantic? Streamers such as Zach Asmongold Hoyt have more influence than ever. What are they really saying? All we wanted to do was play video games. What the fuck? That's crazy. Okay, we'll look at this article in a second once I'm done tweeting. It's so funny to always imagine that you wouldn't be in the mines if such a scheme were to be implemented. JD Vance has started following Curtis Yarvin. Great. I mean, he's already gross as fuck. Oh, one more Larry David moment here. There are 2 more Larry David moments from Curb Your Enthusiasm. Larry David on E. Fatlow's best friend, Barry Davis.
Barry, come for Shabbos dinner one of these weekends.
Or Barry Weiss. Barry Weiss?
Hey, Larry, come for Shabbos dinner one of these weekends. We had Barry Weiss last Friday night. She's fantastic.
It's funny because, like, I mean, that right there is also in another not so subtle way that Larry David acknowledges some of the most annoying pro-Israel, some of the more annoying pro-Israel people out there, okay? His scene with the Wagner guy outside the opera was great, too, in the replies to that tweet. Oh, is this the self-hating Jew one? This one?
You know what you are? What am I? You're a self-loathing Jew. Am I? Oh, yes, yes. I do hate myself.
I can't see Cheryl Hines and not think of RFK Jr. now. Like, it is so wild that she is married to RFK Jr. It's completely tarnished my image of her permanently. It's like this whole time she was there and this was happening behind the scenes and I had no fucking clue because I just didn't know how insane RFK Jr. was.
It has nothing to do with being Jewish, okay? No, it doesn't. You know what you
Yeah, he's self-hating, but it has nothing to do with him being Jewish. Wait, there was another thing. Hold on. Where the fuck is it? There was another funny clip in the responses to one of these things where it was I think it was in response to Will Menaker. E Fatlo, I can't believe it. E Fatlo said this. Oh yeah, this part.
What's going on? We're rerouting traffic for a protest rally. Some Palestinian chicken place opening up next to a deli. Can you move forward, please?
Is from 2011, by the way. I know. I mean, look, there is a little bit of tone deafness to this as well. Make no mistake, right? There is tone deafness to this episode as well. If you watch it with your understanding today, it's part of the reason why I'm saying that it's like it's funny, but it's also partially the reason why I think he's not like a committed anti-Zionist by any metric.
Larry, come join us over here.
Come with us. You're a Jew.
No, Larry, come to this side, and I'm yours. Larry, I'm yours whenever you want. Come over here.
Larry, you belong with us. Come,
Get over here. Larry, I have a sister. You, me, and...
What parts age badly? I mean, what do you mean? Larry David is like, in the beginning of this episode, Larry David is also in a relationship with a Palestinian woman. But like Palestinian humanity is not predicated upon, like their, how sexually desirable they are or how good the chicken is. Okay. That's the reason why it's like somewhat tone deaf is what I'm saying. Not to be the friend who's too woke.
And Yasmin, the three of us.
All right, that's enough. Just get the fuck over here. Just get the fuck over here. Stop being an idiot.
Larry, come over here.
Larry,
don't be
get over here. Just stop.
Anything you want.
Anyway, woke of the day for you, my friend. I mean, come on. I'm saying this as like, listen, I'm saying this as someone who loves Larry David. Okay, calm down. What do you mean, friend who's too woke? Even my mom would see how tone deaf this is. Yeah, there is that aspect of it for sure. But, you know, it's from 2011. I'm pretty sure there's a part of that episode where Larry says about Palestinians that their entire identity is based on anti-Semitism. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember all of it. Anyway, there's apparently an Asmongold piece on this as well, but that was the little Larry David part that we were going to talk about. Now we're going to get to some real Hitlerian initiatives that are taking place in the United States of America. A judge was arrested for allegedly helping undocumented immigrant evade arrest. Let's take a look at what took place. The FBI has arrested Judge Hannah Dugan over allegedly helping an undocumented immigrant evade arrest.
Breaking news, the FBI has just arrested a Milwaukee judge accused of trying to help a man evade immigration authorities. In a now deleted post on X, the FBI director writes that Judge Hannah Dugan intentionally misdirected agents. ABC News Justice reporter Alex Mallon has the details. Alex, what do we know so far?
Well, we don't know why the FBI director deleted that post, but we do know from our affiliate in Wisconsin that Judge Hannah Dugan did make her initial appearance this morning. She was charged with 2 federal crimes. That includes concealing a person from discovery and arrest, and the second count is obstruction of federal proceedings. She appeared, her attorney in that court proceeding said that, quote, Judge Dugan wholeheartedly protests the arrest, and the judge ended up actually ordering her released after that hearing. We expected she will plead not guilty to those charges. But this is a dramatic escalation, obviously, of the Trump administration's, war with the judiciary. They have been previewing the possibility that they would seek charges against any judge or federal officer or even state officers who they say obstruct lawful deportation efforts by this administration. But obviously, this is a dramatic escalation of that. And they detail this. We just got these court charges that were unsealed. Basically, on April 18th, they say that Judge Dugan had an undocumented immigrant set to appear before her in court, and they allege that she helped facilitate him evading ICE officers who were present and ready to arrest him at that court. They say that they were actually able to later arrest him on the street, that he fled them. But now they are bringing those charges, saying that they're formally accusing this judge of trying to help this undocumented immigrant who was charged, facing state charges of assault and battery, and was appearing before her at that time on April 18th. So obviously, we're going to watch the developments. This is going to be a very contentious and closely watched case as we see this administration really take head on this idea that they say that state officials are seeking to obstruct their federal efforts to crack down on illegal immigration.
But first, a Wisconsin judge under arrest and facing charges accused of flouting federal law to help an illegal immigrant. Federal prosecutors say
States' rights, by the way. Yep. Nope. The Guardian reported the Trump administration reinstated family detention policy in March 2025 with at least 100 migrant families being detained at the Carnes and Dilley detention centers in Texas, including children as young as 1 year old. This is yet another, by the way, she was literally protecting them from a warrantless arrest, detention, and deportation without due process, as a judge should do. This is yet another instance where the Trump administration is directly putting the crosshairs on the judiciary, on the power that judges have. And also, once again, I told you so's are important to maintain here. This is why you should pay close attention when I speak about certain things like this in terms of how the public's attitude will move. Generic ballot, Democrats 47, Republicans 44, hardly into wave territory yet, but suggestive that an environment is beginning to change. A D+3 a year is already a 5-point shift from 2024's congressional result, and immigration is one of his worst issues. Okay? Do you approve or disapprove of the way that Donald Trump is handling immigration? At 51%, immigration is now unpopular. What the fuck happened? It was so popular before. Well, what happened is Kilmar Abrego Garcia happened. Kilmar Abrego Garcia happened, and it's a minus 21% net approval rating, which means this is his least popular issue. Why is this his least popular issue? Because it's the one that the Americans have been fucking screaming about, that got enough Democrats to actually do something about it, that got the media to cover it, and now more Americans are becoming aware of this this unjustifiable immigrant deportation agenda. This is what I kept saying over and fucking over again. The more you put the bead on certain issues, the more Democrats actually go out and fucking protest these things. The more you protest, the more Democrats will actually be asked to do anything about it. And the more Democrats actually do something about it, the more the public will be knowledgeable on this process because the media will finally cover it. And here we are. That's why I always say just looking at approval ratings simply will tell you what Americans are paying attention to and what they're not paying attention to. Do you understand? It doesn't say anything else. Americans don't know the impact of the policies that they push for. Why is genocide not a part of the questions? I mean, it's foreign conflicts. And the reason why Israel is not a part of the question is because this is a New York Times poll. Let's be real. The New York Times is probably the worst newspaper on Israel. It's probably one of the worst legacy publishers on the issue of Israel. Having said that, however, there's additional polls on Israel. Here it is, Data for Progress poll from 4/9 till 4/14. Which approach to the Israel-Palestine conflict do you prefer, even if neither is exactly right? Among Democrats, the U.S. should restrict military aid to Israel until it stops attacking on civilians in Gaza, supports Palestinian rights, and commits to a long-term peace process. The U.S. should continue military aid to Israel and support its right to defend itself, while encouraging efforts to reduce civilian harm and promote long-term peace. Literally 71% say they should restrict military aid to Israel. Under the age of 45, 80% say this. Even among moderates, 62% say that they should restrict military aid. This is as close you can get to a non-issue, okay? Why is this attitude not reflected among Dem leaders? They love the polls, I thought, because they don't love the polls. They don't. They turn a blind eye to those polls because they are too afraid of coming out against Israel. That's just the reality of it, okay? This is one of the most undemocratic positions within either party because I'm willing to bet that even amongst the Republican base, these numbers are obviously not going to be as slanted in one direction, but there's majority support. It says net 51 plus, but in what world was the Palestinian support side 21 plus? Wait, what? 21%? No, what are you talking about? It's a net 51 approval rating. That is an insanely popular position to take. They're saying 71% want this and only 20% want the other side. I've been saying this for months, by the way, because these polls are not new. This attitude is not new. And this attitude, in terms of a complete arms embargo to Israel, has been a prominent fixture of American politics for the past year and a half. And yet, while the election was happening, everyone was aware that this was a very popular position. And yet the Democrats did nothing about it because they wanted the baby murder to continue. Okay? And they were willing to throw away the election to a fascist, incompetent monster to allow Israel to continue doing its unlimited baby murder. Make no mistake. This is something that is completely unforgivable, okay? Completely and utterly unforgivable. So whenever you see the Trump administration taking action such as this one against judges, for example, and someone tries to tell you like, whoa, what about Kamala Harris? She wouldn't do this. It's like, yeah, except Kamala Harris is more responsible for this than fucking you are, than anyone else is, because she would not look at a 70-30 issue and say, I'm in support of the 70% because she wanted the genocide to fucking continue. And she was willing to throw American democracy, or what remains of American theoretical democracy, under the bus.
Milwaukee County Circuit Court Judge Hannah Dugan allegedly helped that migrant avoid arrest by ICE officers at the courthouse. It's a bizarre case and it's still unfolding. Hello, I'm John Roberts in Washington. Sandra, good to see you back again.
All right, good to be back with you as well, John. I'm Sandra Smith in New York, and this is America Reports. So today's arrest of a judge marks the second such case in the last 24 hours. A former New Mexico judge and his wife were taken into custody yesterday. Federal agents arresting them for harboring a suspected Tren de Aragua gang member in their guest house.
For more on all of this, we are honored to have in the new U.S. Attorney General, Pam Bondi. It's good to talk to you, Pam.
Good to talk to you.
So let me read a little bit from the criminal complaint here. And Judge Dugan says, despite having been advised of the administrative warrant for the arrest of Flores Ruiz, Judge Dugan then escorted Flores Ruiz and his counsel out of the courtroom through the jury door, which leads to a non-public area of the courthouse. A foot chase ensued. The agents pursued Flores Ruiz for the entire length of the courthouse and ultimately apprehended him. According to this complaint, Judge Dugan was visibly angry that ICE was there to arrest Flores Ruiz, even tried to kick the deportation agents out of the courthouse.
Yeah, and to set the stage for you and Sandra, this was truly horrific. This guy was in court being prosecuted by a state prosecutor for domestic violence battery. He had beat up two people, a guy and a girl, hit the guy 30 times, knocked him to the ground, choked him, beat up a woman so badly they both had to go to the hospital. And John, you know, it's so rare for victims to want to cooperate. They wanted to cooperate. They were sitting in the courtroom with the state prosecutor. The judge learns that ICE was outside to get the guy because he had been deported in 2013, came back in our country, commits these crimes, charged with committing these crimes, victims in court. Judge finds out. She goes out in the hallway, screams at the immigration officers. She's furious, visibly shaken, upset, sends them off to talk to the chief judge. She comes back in the courtroom. You're not going to believe this. Takes the defendant and the defense attorney back in her chambers, takes them out a private exit and tells them to leave, while a state prosecutor and victims of domestic violence are sitting in the courtroom.
Wow.
You know, Madam Attorney General, great to have you here, and thanks for coming back on America Report. So we remember these.
What is insane about this story is that the current Attorney General, Pam Bondi, is complaining about due process taking place. Because if this person is convicted, okay, and deportation is seen as a necessity, then that's what's going to happen. But they don't want to wait for the court process to take place. This is, no matter how much they try to hyper focus on the details of this court case, make no mistake. This is not about the depravity of the criminal immigrant. This is about the depravity of the administrative state, the depravity of the Attorney General for revoking due process. This is not an argument about domestic violence and protecting violent abusers. This is an argument about undermining due process. That's why she is currently locked up. It is psychotic. Everything Bondi said is false. The judge never hid them. Seeing claims about the judge hiding the defendant. Read the complaint, folks. Written by the DOJ, by the way. The guy was literally in the public area where agents were. I guess he got in an elevator before they could get to him. The complaint says, after letting the defendant exit, she came back to the bench. After leaving Chief Judge's vestibule and returning to the public hallway, DEA Agent A reported that Flores Ruiz and his attorney were in the public hallway. DEA Agent B was also observed Flores Ruiz and his attorney in the hallway near courtroom 615 and noted that Flores Ruiz was looking around the hallway. From different vantage points, both agents observed Flores Ruiz and his counsel walk briskly towards the elevator bank at the south end of the 6th floor. I am familiar with the layout of the 6th floor of the courthouse and know that the south elevators are not the closest elevators to courtroom 615. Therefore, it appears that Flores Ruiz and his counsel elected not to use the closest elevator bank to courtroom 615. DEA Agent A followed Flores Ruiz and his attorney towards the south elevator bank. At approximately 8:50 a.m., DEA Agent A alerted other members of the arrest team that DEA Agent A was on the elevator with Flores Ruiz. While on the elevator, Flores Ruiz and his attorney spoke to each other in Spanish. Ruiz. Here, Jason Palladino posted the relevant section of the complaint against Judge Dugan, who was alleged to have led a man into a jury exit to briefly avoid arrest by ICE, DEA, and FBI agents in the hallway. Judge Dugan learns of ICE's presence and confronts members of the arrest team. Witnesses have described Judge Dugan's response to learning of ICE's presence. For example, the courtroom deputy indicated that when Flores Ruiz arrived, Judge Dugan already was on the bench and conducting proceedings unrelated to Flores Ruiz's matter. The courtroom deputy observed Attorney A, the individual who had photographed the agents, enter and approach Judge Dugan's clerk. Attorney A stated that there appeared to be ICE agents in the hallway. Attorney A told the clerk where the agents were seated and what they were wearing. The courtroom deputy reported that the clerk then got up and talked with Judge Dugan. Judge Dugan became visibly angry, commented that the situation was absurd, left the bench, and entered chambers. At the time, Flores Ruiz was seated in the gallery of the courtroom. Another individual, Attorney B, was working as an assistant district attorney in Judge Dugan's courtroom, April 18th, 2025. According to Attorney B, there were approximately 8 criminal cases, including Flores Ruiz's case, scheduled for pretrial hearings that morning. Attorney B was aware that the victims from Flores Ruiz's criminal case were in the court. While Attorney B was busy preparing for that morning's docket, Attorney B heard someone announce ICE is here. Shortly thereafter, Attorney B heard Judge Dugan say that she was going to call the chief judge before leaving the courtroom. Members of the arrest team reported the following events after Judge Dugan learned of their presence and left the bench. Hassan, there's no trilled R in Ruiz. I don't think so either, but people were saying, say Ruiz by rolling your R's, okay? And Judge A, who were both wearing judicial robes, approached members of the arrest team in the public hallway. Judge A's courtroom is located adjacent to Judge Dugan's courtroom. Witnesses uniformly reported that Judge Dugan was visibly upset and had a confrontational, angry demeanor. Judge Dugan addressed Deportation Officer A and asked if Deportation Officer A was present for a court appearance. When Deportation Officer A responded no, Judge Dugan stated that Deportation A would need to leave the courthouse. Deportation Officer A stated that Deportation Officer A was there to effectuate an arrest. Judge Dugan asked if he had a judicial warrant. And Deportation A officer responded, no, I have an administrative warrant. Judge Dugan stated that he needed a judicial warrant. He then told Judge Dugan that he was in a public space and had a valid immigration warrant. Judge Dugan, efendim, bir de yapmaya başlarsan yerim. Eyvallah. Judge Dugan asked to see the administrative warrant, and Deportation Officer A offered to show it to her. Judge Dugan then demanded that Deportation Officer speak with, you roll single R's when the R begins the word. Okay, whatever. Shut up. This is not the point. Just lock in, Chad. Judge Dugan then demanded that Deportation Officer A speak with Chief Judge. Judge Dugan then had a similar interaction with FBI Agent B and CBP Officer A. Customs and Border Patrol and FBI were there as well. After finding out that they were not present for a court appearance, that they were with ICE, Judge Dugan ordered them to report to the Chief Judge's office. Judge A then escorted members of the arrest team away from courtroom 615 down the hall through a set of double doors towards the reception area for the Chief Judge's office. DA Agent B, who was not recognized by Judge Dugan and Judge A was being part of the arrest team, remained behind in the courtroom. The courtroom deputy reported observing a portion of the above described events in the hallway. According to the courtroom deputy, shortly after Judge Dugan was advised of ICE's presence, the courtroom deputy left the courtroom to look for an unrelated defendant, whom the courtroom deputy was seeking to arrest for an open warrant. The courtroom deputy saw Judge Dugan in her robe in the public hallway telling one of the federal agents that he needed to go talk to Chief Judge. I need you to understand something. A judge, especially in the process of, inside of a courtroom, a judge is the god, okay? Like a judge is quite literally the judge, jury, and executioner. So when a judge says, no, you have no authority here, do you have a judicial warrant, okay? And he says, no, I don't have a judicial warrant. And then the judge says, you need to get the fuck out of my courtroom. You need to get the fuck out of that courtroom. That judge could have actually unironically arrested those people that are in that courtroom and held them in contempt of the court for not following a lawful order being made in that process. She could have arrested them if she wanted to. Okay? This is something that even the Supreme Court is most likely not going to abide by because it destroys any power that the judiciary has. Okay? It's over. The judge has no power if a random dickhead can decide to do this. They weren't in the courtroom, they were in the hallway, I think. Regardless, this is an incredibly important part of the separation of power, okay? You cannot have the executive authority undermine the judiciary. It is kind of the whole reason for why the judiciary exists, okay? You are inside of a courthouse, especially. You should not be violating the lawful orders or the determinations being made by the judge outside of the courthouse either, technically, okay? Under normal circumstances, when the judge says, hey, we're going to go through due process with this person, you can't just be like, nah, I don't care. Like, there's jurisdiction here, and it is in the hands of the judge. Yeah, judiciary is literally there to prevent executive from determining what law is. That's the whole point. And I think a lot of people don't understand what the Constitution is there to do. The Constitution is not there to limit your freedoms as a regular citizen or non-citizen on U.S. soil. The Constitution is there to regulate and limit the power of the fucking government from doing shit like this, doing literally shit like this. That is the entire reason for why this exists. It's crazy. Anyway, you're wrong on many levels. Judges can't just walk hallways involving themselves in everything they see. It is her own personal court case. It's literally due process taking place. You can't just go, nah, sorry, I've decided that there is no due process in this circumstance. He wasn't. It's not even a he, it's a she. In any case, he was talking about, my bad, he was talking about the agent. Brother, I work in a federal courthouse. Judges absolutely have full reign of the place. That chatter is insane. Yeah. By the way, judges don't just have full reign over the courthouse. They have full reign in general. Like, we're not even talking about that. That's the, like, what do you think a judge's purpose is? To just sit there and fucking bang a gavel? Like, what are you talking about? No, I'm just saying, like, within the halls of a courthouse, in the courthouse, they are the god, okay? They're functionally the god. They're the judge, the jury, and the executioner in general, okay? But outside of the courthouse, they have a lot of powers as well. I'm not talking about in their own personal life. I'm talking like when they make a fucking decision that is supposed to limit the enforcement actions by other members of law enforcement. Like, for example, I'll give you a great example of this. Court process takes place, okay? There's a court proceeding. There's a court proceeding. There's a criminal trial, okay? And the judge adjudicates at the end of the process. The person, let's say the defendant, is found to be not guilty. You can't just go up to that person once he leaves the courthouse and go, I don't care. I still think you're guilty. You're going to jail anyway. Do you understand? Can you comprehend how this would undermine everything that is... This would undermine the entire structure of the judiciary to begin with. Like, the judge says, yes, we found you not guilty, bangs the fucking gavel. You think you're walking out a free man. And then some cop is waiting outside going, no, no, no. I still think you're illegal. I still think you're a criminal. Boom, back to prison with you. You can't do that. The fuck do you mean? And the only way you could do that is if there is a separate criminal warrant for yourself, okay? For a totally separate case. In this circumstance, him saying he has an administrative warrant is not applicable. There is a actual active court case taking place over whether or not this person is responsible for what he was charged with. And then in the aftermath of that, then you will make a determination for deportation orders. But you can't just decide, nah, fuck due process. We're just deporting you. Sorry. We're going to deport you expeditiously. Like, this is crazy. This is not even lack of due process. It's giving due process and defying the outcome. That's ridiculous. DA Agent B, who had remained in the hallway and had not been recognized as a member of the arrest team, reported that Judge Dugan walked around the hallway and appeared to be looking for additional agents before she returned to the courtroom. Once inside the office of the chief judge, the deportation officer A showed Judge A his credentials and the administrative warrant. Judge A asked the chief judge's clerk to make a copy of the warrant and asked whether the chief judge was available. The clerk advised that the chief judge was not in the building, but later advised that he was on the phone. At that point, Judge A left, and deportation officer A went inside a more private area of the chief judge's office to speak with him on the phone. During that conversation, Chief Judge stated he was working on a policy which would dictate locations within the courthouse where ICE could safely conduct enforcement operations. The Chief Judge emphasized that such actions should not take place in courtrooms or other private locations within the building. Deportation Officer A asked about whether enforcement actions could take place in the hallway. Chief Judge indicated that hallways are public areas. When the Chief Judge expressed interest in talking to ICE ERO management about this policy, Deportation Officer A provided him with the contact information. While Deportation Officer A was speaking with Chief Judge, DA Agent A, CBP Officer A, and FBI Agents A and B waited in the vestibule area outside of the Chief Judge's office. DA Agent A departed that area. After a short while, Judge Dugan's courtroom deputy then approached the remaining arrest team members and stated the courtroom deputy was the one who had notified Judge Dugan about their arrest plans. Courtroom deputy was also made a comment about Judge Dugan pushing Flores Ruiz's cases through, which the arrest team interpreted to mean Judge Dugan was attempting to expedite Flores Ruiz's hearing. Judge Dugan escorts Flores Ruiz through a jury door to avoid his arrest. As in, she wants to conduct the court proceedings on this person. This doesn't mean that she is going to find him not guilty. It just means she recognizes that ICE is waiting to literally grab this dude, kidnap this dude, okay, without due process taking place. So she goes, let's expedite this process. Let's expedite this process so that we can figure out if he is actually fucking guilty or not. That is crazy that they arrested her for doing this. What? You dumb? For example, the courtroom deputy recalled that upon the courtroom deputy's return to the courtroom, defense counsel for Flores Ruiz was talking to the clerk, and Flores Ruiz was seated in the jury box rather than in the gallery. The courtroom deputy believed that counsel and the clerk were having an off-the-record conversation to pick the next court date. Defense counsel and Flores Ruiz then walked towards each other and toward the public courtroom exit. The courtroom deputy then saw Judge Dugan get up and heard Judge Dugan say something like, "Wait, come with me." Despite having been advised of the administrative warrant for the arrest of Flores Ruiz, Judge Dugan then escorted Flores Ruiz and his counsel out of the courtroom through the jury door, which leads to a non-public area of the courthouse. These events were also unusual for two reasons. First, courtroom deputy had previously heard Judge Dugan direct people not to sit in the jury box because it was exclusive for the jury's use. Second, according to the courtroom deputy, only deputies, juries, court staff, and in-custody defendants being escorted by deputies used the back jury door. Defense attorneys and defendants who were not in custody never used the jury door. We all know why this took place. This took place so that the judge could actually fucking protect due process on principle. That's it. Oh, they are fucking mad. They're mad and they're claiming that this person is a violent criminal and the judge protected this violent criminal. Before the conviction comes through, technically, he is not a violent criminal. He might be. I'm not saying he's not, but it doesn't fucking matter because what this judge is doing in this process is not defending a violent criminal. It's defending due process. It's making sure that the court process goes through. And before people say, what was he accused of? It doesn't fucking matter. Okay? It does not matter. Especially considering that if he was accused of a heinous crime, for example, and there was enough threat for him to be walking out in public, then the judge would have made a separate determination to hold him instead of allowing him to walk free anyway. Basics of judicial immunity. Absolute immunity, when recognized as absolute, is absolute and means judges are not liable in civil actions for their judicial acts, even when done maliciously and corruptly. The law is clear that in general, no action can be supported against the judge or justice of the peace acting judicially and within the sphere of his jurisdiction, however erroneous his decision or malicious the motive imputed to him. Like, for example, it reminds me of that one judge that was sending little children to little children jail because he illegally had set up a pay per child scheme. And ironically enough, Joe Biden actually commuted his sentence on his way out. He pardoned that judge. Okay? Only after the court proceedings are done and a separate investigation is concluded, and then on top of that, this person is found guilty of wrongdoing, can that person be, sent to prison? You can't, in the process, decide, that judge, what you're doing is abhorrent, illegal, immoral. I agree, but you can't just in the process go, sorry, what you're doing is abhorrent. We're arresting you while you're making this determination to send children to jail. for no other reason than the fact that you are getting paid to do so. Judges and judicial officers have always been awarded absolute immunity for their judicial acts. Absolute immunity covers even when conduct which is corrupt, malicious, or intended to do injury. And in this process, what this judge was doing wasn't even fucking corrupt or immoral, for the record. Yeah, the Cash for Kids judge. This is what I was talking about. Biden's commutation and Kids for Cash scandal angers some Pennsylvania families. Anyway, beg your finest pardon. Okay, we're not going to get into a totally separate. We're not going to get into this totally separate case. Okay. A victim witness specialist employed by the Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office was present in courtroom 615. The VWS made contact with the victims in Flores Ruiz's criminal case, who were also in court. The VWS was able to identify Flores Ruiz based upon the victim's reactions to the presence in the court. Dugan's gesture towards Flores Ruiz and an unknown Hispanic woman. The VWS stated that she believed the Hispanic woman may have been an interpreter. However, based on the VWS's description of the woman and other witness statements, I believe the Hispanic woman to which the VWS referred to was Flores Ruiz's attorney. The VWS stated that Judge Dugan then exited through the jury door with Flores Ruiz and the Hispanic woman. The VWS was concerned because Flores Ruiz's case had not yet been called and the victims were waiting. Another attorney C, who was in courtroom 615 on April 18, 2025, to represent a client, also advised case agents that he observed Judge Dugan forcefully direct two individuals, a man and a woman, to leave through the jury door. Attorney C indicated that this was done with a stern tone. Ruiz makes it out of the courthouse and is arrested after a foot chase. After leaving the chief judge's vestibule and returning to the public hallway, DEA Agent A reported that Flores Ruiz and his attorney were in the public hallway. You want to know something that's so, like, sad and weird about this process, by the way? Like, technically, if he gave chase and he was able to successfully evade the authorities and then somehow made his way back to the next court date, and if found not guilty, like, he would be able to continue being on U.S. soil, ironically enough. And that's kind of what ICE is trying to stop from happening. They just don't want this to happen. They, like, because what the ICE enforcement in this process is in a legal gray area, okay? The reality of the matter is, if you can successfully stop ICE agents from following on an immigrant enforcement action, then yeah, that person is still fine to be here. Like, the difference between, like, for example, I'll give you this example, okay? ICE could not figure out, there was a Korean American legal permanent resident going to Colombia, and ICE tried to nab her while they were going after Mahmoud Khalil. They couldn't find her on campus, okay? And she was able to make her way to a New York court, and because of that, she is not detained. Mahmoud Khalil, on the other hand, could not evade the ICE agents, and that's the reason why he is currently in a fucking Louisiana detention facility. And considering that this administration has already gone back on revoking the immigration status of thousands of students because they just had no merit. Like, there's this totally meritless revocations. It's literally about abiding your time until, you know, the admin realizes that they can't get away with it. It's really fucked up. It is no different than, at least at this stage, because we haven't fully gotten to the legalization of these sorts of actions. Like, this is the pre-Nuremberg race laws moment in Weimar Germany, and not post-Nuremberg race laws moment where it has become officially illegal to be Jewish, right? In many circumstances, if you can just, like, evade the law, because the law is behaving at this stage still in an illegal manner, you can get away with not being disappeared. It is a very strange time. And it's crazy to think because, like, one might say, Hassan, you're telling people how to obstruct justice, and you're urging people to evade the law. But the reality of the matter is, in many of these circumstances, they haven't done anything wrong. And it's actually, as it stands currently, until they change the rules, until new precedents are set, until they change the fucking rules, it is actually the government, the federal agencies that are in violation of the law. It's fucking nutty. The system is so So broken. Anyway, this is the situation.
Words of Tom Homan, the border czar. This was March 17th, and his message on these judges who apparently are trying to get in the way of this administration's efforts. Listen.
I'm proud to be a part of this administration. We're not stopping. I don't care what the judges think. I don't care what the left thinks. We're coming.
So when you see these judges trying to obstruct your efforts to make this country safer, what is your message to them?
We are going to prosecute you, and we are prosecuting you. I found out about this the day it happened. We could not believe, actually, that a judge really did that. We looked into the facts in great depth. That's her picture up on the screen, Hannah Dugan, who is now in custody. You cannot obstruct a criminal case, and really, shame on her. It was a domestic violence case of all cases, and she's protecting a criminal defendant over victims of crime.
In fact, she just had an initial appearance in court. There's also this other case coming out of New Mexico. Judge Joel Cano and his wife were arrested for harboring a TDA member at their home. The alleged TDA member had been picked up by law enforcement, and now he and his wife were picked up and arrested. And you say that you believe, as the Attorney General, that the person that they were having living at their home was a truly potentially bad individual.
Yeah, that's the judge up on the screen now who got arrested. Yeah, his name is Ortega. He was is a known TDA member. So he comes through Eagle Pass January.
Okay, this is the other part of this process, which is like, he's a known TDA member. First and foremost, just like with Israel, when I hear this administration blame someone for being a Tren de Aragua member, okay, I'm going to be a little skeptical about it. I'm sorry. You have lost the power that you should have had as an institution when you shipped off 90% innocent people to CCOT, okay? If what is happening here in terms of the determination for what constitutes a known Tren de Aragua member is simply someone having a fucking autism awareness tattoo, it's going to be very difficult for me. I'm going to need to see some real evidence. Having said that, the irony here is this determination is not up to the Attorney General, Pam Bondi. This determination needs to happen in a court of law, in a courtroom. That's the whole point. Because when you say someone is a fucking violent gang member and we've made a determination that this gang is not even a gang, but it's actually a terror cell, we're going to disappear that person. There is no more room for a due process. The entire argument right now is around due process. I'm not saying keep every single person inside of the American borders, inside of the American national boundaries. I'm simply saying that we have to make this determination in a fucking courtroom, because if we just destroy due process in its entirety, today it's going to be random brown guy. Tomorrow it's going to be another fucking person that is an American citizen. And you can't even make this determination any longer because we've eroded the Constitution and there's no more fucking due process. This is very dangerous.
December 2023. He's living in our country. January 2025, ICE, they get a tip. Tom Homan's done a great job. Our FBI did a great job on this case, too. They get a tip that he is living with a judge and the judge's wife. So they have him arrested first on immigration charges. A Judge Damian Martinez releases him, saying that Judge Cano has a good BS meter and wouldn't let just anyone live on his property.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the associations with this violent Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua, and this person that they harbored in their home, he was showing signs through clothing, we were told, tattoos. There was evidence through voice messages and text messages.
Bro, it doesn't matter. He could literally be a fucking... What? I know, I see his Modelo time. You got a tall boy. It's fucking 2 p.m., dude. Anyway... Sam Cedar said facetiously, these arrests everywhere are all terrorist gang members, right? Where's all the shootouts? Masked, ununiformed nerds approaching you as an international terrorist and they all just lay down their arms? Yeah, exactly. But even then, it doesn't fucking matter. He could be a fucking Tren de Aragua member. He could be. I'm not even saying he's not. I mean, I don't believe this administration, okay? They've already destroyed their credibility, what remained of the credibility. There was not much to begin with. But even then, There's a reason for why due process has to take place. That's my point. Because if Pam Bondi decides you're Tren de Agua and now you're fucking disappearing to CCOT, and that's what matters, that's all it takes for someone to get fucking black bag in the middle of the street, what's stopping them from doing this to you? And if you think being white is the shield that you have, you are fucking wrong. It is nutty. This is just the way to open the door to normalizing destruction of due process. You're such a lib defending institutional norms. Dude, this is not a defense of institutional norms, okay? This is a objectively good thing. It's like saying we have to gut the EPA. Oh my God, you're such a fucking libtard for defending the Environmental Protection Agency or defending the FDA. Yes, there are some things that the goddamn government does that, you know, they could do a better job with, but at least like it should remain, okay? And this isn't even that. This is more than that, because what I'm defending is human rights in general, okay? What I'm defending is like what we have evolved to. And the irony, of course, is that if tomorrow, God forbid, we set new precedents and there is no more due process, I wouldn't be sitting there and going, oh my God, well, the law is the law. I would be talking about how fucking immoral this is. I'm using the existing shred of legality that remains to make a convincing argument to the fucking liberals that are oblivious to the realities here, okay? This doesn't mean that my support only extends to institutional defense here, and that once they just say it's whatever they say goes and there's no need for due process, I'm going to sit around and be like, well, the law is the law, based, you know? At that point, it is unjustifiable, an unjustifiable rule. At that point, we move to the point where the abolition of slavery is illegal and slavery is legal. That's where morality kicks in. Right now, it is both immoral and illegal for the government to do this kind of stuff. Okay? Tomorrow, God forbid, it could be legal, but still very much immoral for the government to do this stuff. I don't want that to become the norm. I don't want to have to make an argument on just morality alone, especially when this is not only immoral, but it's also illegal. Yeah. Career officials inside the Trump admin first viewed the case of Mr. Abrego Garcia like any normal case of a wrongful deportation. They began looking for ways to bring him back, as happens whenever ICE makes that mistake. Then the White House got involved and blew it up. Late last month, 3 days after Abrego Garcia's family filed this lawsuit over his deportation, government attorneys began discussing how to undo the mistake and bring him back. In their conversations, officials went so far as to float the idea of having the U.S. ambassador to El Salvador make a personal appeal to the country's president for Abrego Garcia's return. What is this? Why'd you get clapped? The guy the Milwaukee judge was charging is 30, which means he was a kid when he was deported the first time in 2013. The guy was in a court for a fight with his roommate. Oh, misdemeanor battery, domestic abuse, infliction of physical pain or injury. The above named defendant on or about it caused bodily harm to DT by an act done with intent to cause bodily harm to that person. I mean, it doesn't matter, because this is not even the main point of contention here. The main point of contention is not to make, like, I'm not in the business of even entertaining whether or not this person is a sympathetic person. It's a misdemeanor. It's most likely under normal circumstances not supposed to warrant a deportation measure, okay? But we're not even there. There's no need to even argue on whether or not this is a sympathetic person or not, because the principle that I'm defending this judge, at the very least, is on the principle of abiding by due process. Do you understand? Like, great, sure, sympathetic figure aside, it does not matter, because what's happening here is a severe violation of what makes the American liberal democracy, in theory, tick. It is separation of powers. It is the power that the judiciary has. Like, this is about more than whether or not this is a sympathetic figure, because tomorrow it could be an unsympathetic figure. It could be a figure that's like a fucking violent serial killer. And in the process of, like, it could be an undocumented migrant that is being charged with being a violent serial killer, right? Due process still needs to take place. Due process still needs to take place. Niye? Peki. Evet. Dur gelip alacağım bir dakika. Sure. Here. All right, let's get back to Pam.
Of his association to TDA. So what charges will Cano and his wife face, if any?
So Judge Cano, soon to be former Judge Cano, got his charges were just unsealed. He's charged with obstruction. He admitted post Miranda. He took one of the TDA members' cell phones himself, took it, beat it with a hammer, destroyed it, and then walked the pieces to a city dumpster to dispose of it to protect him. The wife also is charged with destroying evidence. Sandra, not only that, this TDA member, and he had on a necklace that said kill, something about death. He had tattoos all over him. He also had on his cell phone pictures of two decapitated victims, victims, decapitated, gruesome photos, and he was sending them out, and whoever he was sending them to was sending back saying, hey, you need to be careful. You shouldn't be sending these. You shouldn't be texting these photos out. Not only that, these two, the judge and his wife, gave him assault rifles that belonged to their daughter. That's what they're charged with. In the criminal report affidavit, he goes to a shooting range with these assault rifles, with a suppressor, with other known TDA members, and they're shooting. This is the last person that we want in our country, nor will we ever tolerate a judge or anyone else harboring them.
Let me, if I could, Madam Attorney General, come back to the Wisconsin case and Judge Hannah Dugan, because in allegedly letting the perpetrator and the attorney out through a non-public exit and allowed them to get out in front of the building, we had a situation where we've seen that I know Tom Homan was complaining about in Colorado, where there would be no transfer of a defendant from a jail to ICE custody on a detainer request in a way that was orderly and protected public safety. They would dump them off in a parking lot, and then ICE would have to chase them around with the DEA or whatever, or FBI, and pick them up. This ended up in a foot chase in public site. It says here a foot chase ensued. The agents, and this was a DEA agent and an FBI agent, pursued Flores Ruiz for the entire length of the courthouse, ultimately apprehended him near the intersection of West State Street and 10th Street. So the judge apparently has created a situation here where you have a public foot chase. And we all know that, well, sometimes they can come off without incident. They can also
put a finger down, shooting range, gross tattoos, decapitation pictures on the phone. First of all, I don't believe anything that Pam Bondi is saying. And yet again, as I've maintained this position over and over again, I will continue maintaining this position, okay? Until there is a proper court proceeding, okay, none of that matters. She is not appearing in front of a jury. She is trying to manipulate public opinion. There is a reason why all of this needs to be happening in a fucking court of law in front of a jury. And even in that process, there are still innocents that get thrown into prison. Okay? We have now destroyed. We're like, nah, fuck it. Hearsay is enough. YOLO. The top cop of the government making these claims in public is enough. Ironically enough, making these claims in public would actually would cause the fucking, like a convincing defense attorney could just as easily point to this as a way to taint the fucking actual judicial process. This is grounds for a fucking mistrial. But because we are so far removed from that reality at this point, especially as it pertains to talking about migrants and what kind of rights they have, that it doesn't even matter. I can't believe I'm saying this.
Turn into very dangerous situations.
John, that's exactly right. She put the lives of our law enforcement officers at risk. She put the lives of citizens at risk. A street chase, which is absurd that had to happen. But yes, she put a lot of people in danger. That judge did it. So did the other judge. Judge Cano is charged with. They were allegedly giving him assault rifles, AK-47s, AR-15s, with a suppressor, a known TDA member, letting him go to a shooting range to refine and perfect his shooting skills.
Madam
What's
Attorney
happened to our judiciary is beyond me.
Yeah, so when the American public hears this and they think these were once upstanding people in their communities and their professions, and they put it all on the line for this, I mean, have you dug into their motive? Like, what inspired them to carry out these acts and harbor criminals?
They're deranged is all I can think of. I cannot believe. I think some of these judges think they are beyond and above the law, and they are not. And we're sending a very strong message today. If you are harboring a fugitive, we don't care who you are. If you are helping hide one, if you are giving a TDA member guns, anyone who is illegally in this country, we will come after you.
Bro, this is literally like, I can smell that you are harboring Jews in the floorboards type shit, okay? This is straight up Inglorious Bastards. Like, oh my God, dude. Dude, if you can't recognize the Holocaust adjacency of what the Attorney General is stating here, I don't know what to fucking tell you. You are so lost in the sauce. You are the average German citizen at this point that goes, yeah, well, you know, maybe people shouldn't hide Jews in the floorboards because they are all dangerous criminals. Like, that's what we're doing. And I know when I make this comparison, a lot of fucking rabid right-wingers are going to turn around and say, oh, dude, yeah, making an Anne Frank comparison again with a violent criminal. It's like, dude, until there is fucking due process, you can't make this assertion. And this entire fucking conversation is happening because they don't want to have due process.
And we will prosecute you. We will find you.
If I could just finish off with this idea, very significant development that you're arresting judges now. Now, it could be that the judges have engaged in terribly bad behavior and deserve to be arrested. But you know what critics will say? They'll say, oh, this is a government that is expanding the powers of the Article 1 of the Constitution. Now they're arresting judges. How do you respond to that?
No one is above the law, John. No one is above the law in this country. And if you are destroying evidence, if you are obstructing justice, when you have victims sitting in a courtroom of domestic violence and you're escorting a criminal defendant out a back door, it will not be tolerated, and it is a crime in the United States of America. Doesn't matter who you are, you're going to be prosecuted.
Madam Attorney General, great to see you in the studio.
Great to see you.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank
your
you
time.
very much. Appreciate that.
I'm Steve Ducey. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox.
We are
Grace
so
X-
fucked. We have moved on. We are in the dangerous place, dude. We are in a fucked up place right now. Holy shit, dude. Understand that Pam Bondi is making these assertions specifically to avoid due process, specifically so that they get not a legal foothold, that will come later, but at least like win the court of public opinion so that they can have a whatever I say goes attitude. And if you are a judge and you try to maintain due process as a way to defend the entire purpose of the courts to begin with, we will arrest you. We will arrest you, and we will defend that arrest on television, and we will try to get the public to be on board with this. So far, we have been lucky enough that the victims like Mahmoud Khalil and the victims like Mosen, victims like Rumeysa Öztürk have been perfect victims, like literally perfect victims. That makes it much easier, even devoid of Democratic Party resistance, that makes it much easier to make a convincing case in the court of public opinion. That is why I say we're fortunate that the administration that's trying to do these horrible actions is too incompetent to play this smart. They're not moving slowly in the erosion of civil liberties. They're moving in a belligerent manner. Oh.
Congressman George Santos.
Also, speaking of a erosion of justice here, Congressperson George Santos sentenced to over 7 years in federal fraud case, ladies and gentlemen.
Has been sentenced to more than 7 years in prison for fraud and identity theft. Santos arrived in a New York federal court earlier today, telling the judge he regrets defrauding voters. Now he's looking at 87 months in prison. ABC's Phil Lipoff and ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer are here with more on that. So, Phil, what's the latest?
Well, at 87 months, Diane, they say hindsight is 20/20. George Santos is now going to have a good deal of time to reflect on his behavior that led to the charges, that led to the conviction, and his behavior through the sentencing phase, which prosecutors said was the reason they were asking for the max. He eventually said, you know, I regret what I did, but in that same breath, went after the Department of Justice, saying, yeah, but they want to land an anvil on my head rather than giving me the sentence that other people in my situation have gotten. Well, the judge weighed all of that, could have done the mandatory minimum of 2 years, which is what Santos and his attorneys were asking for. Prosecutors asking for those 87 months. Judge gave him every bit of those 87 months and then 2 years of supervised probation after.
And Brian, what do you make of this sentencing given Santos pled guilty? Are you surprised?
I mean, to Phil's point, I'm not really surprised.
Once again, another Jewish man falsely maligned, unjustly persecuted.
I think the government said in their sentencing arguments that he was unrepentant in his actions, in part because of his insatiable appetite for likes on social media. He did himself no favors from August when he took that plea till today, going on social media and talking about selective prosecution, how the government's out to get him. And within the sentencing guidelines, Santos could have faced anywhere from 75 to 87 months. And the reason why he got the very top of that guideline is because of what he said himself throughout this case. So not surprised at all. I think for whatever reason he thought the way he was conducting himself would have helped, but no, it didn't.
And Phil, Santos spoke in court today expressing regret. Did that seem to have any impact here?
Well, apparently not, because I think at this point, you're right before sentencing. Brian's a defense attorney. I'm sure he's had more than one conversation with a client about showing remorse, expressing remorse. He said in court today, Santos did, "My conduct betrayed my supporters and the institutions I swore to uphold." He was teary-eyed. I mean, but this is at the point where you are about to be sentenced. Just within the last couple of weeks, he was attacking the Department of Justice. You know, this was a witch hunt and things of that nature. So, yeah, he didn't show much remorse, and they hit him with every bit of 87 months today.
Brian, does he have any grounds for appeal?
Doors open.
Sure, but that ground is shaky at best. He was given a sentence within the guidelines of 75 to 87 months. And just to go back to what he said about the DOJ is not treating him like everyone else. Yes, he was treated like everyone else. And to Phil's point also about what I tell my clients, one thing I would have told George Santos if he was my client, shut up. Don't open your mouth. Stop talking, because it's his own words that got him into this trouble. And I've had clients do that as well. They badmouth the government in a way that they can use against them. And George Santos thought of himself as a different politician, I guess, someone who can badmouth the DOJ and the prosecutorial system and somehow get away with it. And now he's learning he's just like the rest of us. And when you do that, you get these types of prizes. You get the highest sentence within your guideline. And if he does appeal, like I said, I don't see a ground that he can win, but it's his right to do so.
All right, Phil Lipoff, Brian Buckmeyer, thank you both.
Now to President Trump and the war in Ukraine. As Russia escalates its attacks,
unjustifiably going after someone for appearing on Fortnite Fridays. Really fucked up stuff, folks.
Trump pushed back, but also embraced Russia's goals in peace talks. Senior political correspondent Rachel Scott is at the White House with the story. Good morning, Rachel.
George, good morning to you. And the president has made it clear he's not happy with Russia's aggression against Ukraine, but overnight they launched another strike as the fighting continues.
This morning in Moscow, Russian officials claiming a car bomb killed a high-ranking Russian military general. This surveillance video showing the moment a parked vehicle explodes as a person walks toward it. Ukraine has not taken credit for the attack. It comes as Russia launches another drone strike across Ukraine, just one day after targeting Kyiv.
Not gonna lie, it's kind of wild watching Ukrainians get so much better at doing clandestine operations and doing terror, and then thinking about what a potential 9/11 might look like in the future. Like we're basically watching these dudes take it to Russia first, okay? But inevitably, there is going to come a time when they're, when they turn the crosshairs on an administration that fucking sold them down the line, potentially. Just saying.
One of the
I've seen this one before. Yeah, that's what I mean. This is not a movie. This is just look at American history.
Frankly, that's what we wanted last time. We almost got it, and then they backed out of that deal. But we had it to go into China and sell our product, sell our wares. In other words, it's called to open China. That would be great. That would be a big win. But I'm not even sure I'm going to ask for it because they don't want it open. They don't want it open.
Come in here.
But because of tariffs, I could possibly get that. What do you think? Opening up China would be a big win, right? The problem is no matter how big the win is, the press will not give me credit for it. If I got the greatest win in history, they'll pay us trillions and trillions of dollars. They'll give us anything we want. The press will say, Trump, he just had a terrible defeat. He suffered a terrible defeat. But the people know. No, I think we're going to have a lot of big wins. I don't know if it's going to be covered that way by the fake news, but the wins are going to be very substantial. We're losing 5 billion a day.
So President Trump speaking to reporters there on Air Force One as he makes his way to Rome for the Pope's funeral.
Damn, they're cutting him, dude.
Covering a lot of topics. Quite hard to hear him over the roar of the engines of Air Force One. But when it
He's
came
looking
to that
rough,
meeting
yeah.
between the U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and President Putin, he said discussions went well. It was a good meeting. He also spoke about
dude, good tariffs deal for
course,
sure.
saying we're making very good.
Not sure if you saw Trump is going mask out about how much he cares about genes and what it means for greatness, and it's really awkward.
Judge, and he was asked if he was going to have any meetings on the sidelines of the funeral. He said, frankly, it's a little disrespectful to have meetings when you're at the funeral of the Pope. But he said, I'll be talking to people. I'll be seeing lots of people. One person he doesn't expect to bump into, though, is former President Joe Biden. It's not high on my list. It's really not, he said. We'll keep across those comments for you, bring you any updates throughout the evening.
Yeah, he's got a dude. We don't talk about the Brandonization of Trump nearly enough on this broadcast. We really don't talk about it, but there is certainly a Brandonization of Donald Trump that's taken place, especially in the second term, where his I did NATO Jack stuff is even dumber. Someone in the chat actually made a really funny comparison that I hadn't even thought of, which is everything that Brandon went through with Bibi and Israel, Donald Trump is ironically going through with Vladimir Putin, where he's like, no, Vladimir Putin, if I wag my finger at you, you will stop. I know it because you trust me and I trust you. And it's even dumber because at least with Israel, I mean, in some ways it's dumber, and in some ways it's, I guess, more desperate, understandably, because you don't have the same level of control over your foreign adversary as you do over Israel, right? If you're the American government. But it is quite funny that as Biden was like, come on, Jack, don't do it. Don't stop killing these children. I'll show you Jesus. You'll have a come to Jesus moment, right? And then Benjamin Netanyahu would be like, we are killing the children tomorrow. We will keep killing the children every day. That is what would happen. And now Donald Trump is like, oh, dude, look at this sweetheart deal we gave you. Come on. It's everything you ever wanted. Please don't fucking keep bombing Kyiv. And Vladimir Putin's like, no, we're going to do that. We're going to keep bombing Kyiv, actually. Fuck you. Suck my dick. In some ways, obviously, you have way less motion with a guy like Vladimir Putin than you're supposed to have with Benjamin Netanyahu, but it's still dumb. Still absolutely idiotic for him to put himself out there in this way to look like a fool. Anyway, let's get back to the Ukraine peace talks now.
Deadliest attacks on the Capitol in months. President Trump posting on social media, Vladimir, stop, urging him to get the peace deal done.
Yo, I'm sorry. This was awesome. In the background, horrifying events are taking place. 12 people were murdered, right, in Kyiv. But Donald Trump's response to this is to go, Vladimir, stop. Like, what the fuck are you saying? What are you fucking doing? God damn. He literally is going, this isn't you. Vladimir, this isn't your heart. It's like, bro, I don't know if you know this, but he invaded the country, you know? This is absolutely his heart. What the fuck do you mean? You saying that the U.S. has turned into the UK, a country with no motion, was an elite take? Oh, yeah, no. A country that still believes that they have, like, global superpower status, meanwhile, has completely lost all of its influential role in the global stage. Khalil, no! Khalil, no! That's what he did. Vladimir, stop!
I wasn't happy with it, and we're in the midst of talking peace, and missiles were fired, and I was not happy with it.
President Trump has repeatedly said he could end the war on day one. In an interview with Time magazine, the president now saying, quote, I said that as an exaggeration. Months into his second term, the war has not ended. In the Oval Office, when asked what concessions Russia was giving up for peace, the president says Putin is not taking the whole country.
Stopping the war, taking the whole country. Pretty big concession.
Wow, what a concession. He's not nuking Germany. That's a concession too. If we're just making up stuff that Vladimir Putin may not even have the capability of doing, that's awesome. What an awesome way to talk about this deal. You have so much motion, sir. Incredible deal maker, dude. Yeah. Well, it's okay. He's not invading Poland. So that's the concession. He's not invading Poland. That's a big deal for me, I think.
The Trump administration has put forward a peace proposal that would prohibit NATO membership for Ukraine and force Ukraine to give up land that Russia has seized since its invasion, in addition to giving up Crimea. The president telling Time, Crimea will stay with Russia, and Zelensky understands that, and everybody understands that it's been with them for a long time. But Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has rejected that idea and pushed back against the proposal, saying, we will negotiate, we will not surrender. For the White House, it's an about-face. From President Trump's first term, when his administration pledged that Crimea would remain a part of Ukraine. And before becoming Secretary of State, Marco Rubio spoke out about the danger of allowing Russia to keep Crimea.
The president's special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, is back in Russia meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. But again, George, this comes as Russia continues their aggression and their attacks against Ukraine.
And Rachel, the president also in this trade war with China. China made a couple of moves overnight, but also said there's no talks.
Exactly, George. And they're really pushing back hard against the president's repeated claims.
I'm sorry, but the funniest thing that has taken place so far that I'm noticing in mainstream outlets and mainstream reporting is that due to the overwhelming incompetence of the Trump administration, even the media is forced to take a neutral stance towards China, as opposed to consistently being like, well, you can't trust the Chinese. They're Chinese. Like, normally, if this was the Brandon administration and they were trying to, enforce similar trade policies or whatever, like, the way they would go about it would be a little bit more professional. And therefore, the media would, do what they normally do. They'd be like, well, you can't trust the Chinese for saying that they're not actually talking to the Biden envoys because, like, they're Chinese. They're probably lying, blah, 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 right? They would be xenophobic as fuck. But because Trump is so belligerent and in broad daylight, transparently belligerent, that the media has basically been forced into a corner where they have to recognize they have to recognize our Chinese enemies as a more responsible party in this convo. Incredible. Donald Trump, the great unifier, just not in the way that he thought it would work, has basically created a support system amongst China and Japan, okay? That is, remember, chat, when I went to Japan and I met with the Japanese Communist Party, one of the questions I asked the Japanese Communist Party, which is an opposition party that is supposed to be, fundamentally and functionally closer to China than any other Japanese party. They're the fucking Communist Party. And I asked them, like, how do you feel about China? And they were like, nah, No, fuck no. We don't fuck with those boys. All right. Now you got the LDP. You got the liberal fucking party being like, actually, we have an incredibly important trade relationship with China, and we are not going to compromise that, despite the fact that we're a fucking vassal state for U.S. empire.
That he is in fact engaging in talks and negotiations with China to end this trade war that he started. The president, in a new interview with Time magazine, says that he has spoken to President Xi, but China is pushing back on that, calling it fake news, saying there are no negotiations on tariff issues and no agreement has been reached, George.
Okay, Rachel, thanks very much.
They look like old friends.
How are you, Mr. President?
Fine, just fine, thank you. And sound like it too.
So good to see you.
So good to see you, Steve Witkoff told Vladimir Putin. This was his fourth meeting with the Russian president as Donald Trump continues his push for peace. But there wasn't any rush. Before the meeting, Witkoff found time to go sightseeing with Kremlin envoy Kirill Dmitriev, a visual demonstration of how Washington and Moscow appear increasingly in lockstep.
We're just re-establishing contacts. We're just trying to find the way out from this terrible crisis which was created by previous American administration.
Witkoff's visit coincided with a symbolic anniversary of Soviet-American cooperation, 80 years since their troops met in Germany before the end of World War II. So, are we poised for another historic collaboration?
It is difficult to say. History repeats itself. Let's hope that we will achieve victory. Vladimir Vladimirovich will make the right decision.
I doubt it because a lot was promised, but nothing has been done yet.
Speaking of promises, another from Donald Trump, that he can end the war soon.
So I want to say 5,000 young men. They happen to be mostly Ukrainian, Russian. 5,000 young Ukrainian.
I love this universe that we exist in, where all of the Harvard, Yale graduate, like, think tank lovers that have spent years and years slaving away at the Atlantic Council have been cast aside by the administration for a fucking guy that plays golf with Donald Trump. Oh my God. Remember, Steve Witkoff is his qualification for this position as the top American diplomat is that he plays golf with Donald Trump. He's just a real estate guy before this. And in some respects, I think that calcified Atlantic Council approach, unironically has been a setback in negotiations. So in some ways, fucking Steve Witkoff is Steve Goatkoff. It's crazy. Because let's be real. What he's doing is presenting himself as Donald Trump in every room. That's all he's doing. And Donald Trump has a lot of crazy ideas. But sometimes Donald Trump and his crazy ideas get to force a ceasefire. I mean, I think you're going to get a stalemate exchange for a slaughter. I think so too, but we'll see.
Ukrainian and Russian men, and that's a big honor if I can do it. I think we're pretty close.
The Kremlin called Witkoff's visit constructive and useful and said it brought their respective positions closer together. That's not good news for Ukraine. For them, Donald Trump's current peace plan is already far too one-sided.
Not everything's going the Kremlin's way. A senior general was killed in this car bomb outside Moscow, which Russia blamed on Ukraine. But it seems there's not much Kyiv could do right now to change the way things are heading. Ivor Bennett, Sky News, Moscow.
Today, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is meeting with Vladimir Putin again in Moscow. This follows Russia's attacks in Kyiv. They were just abhorrent yesterday, leaving at least 12 innocent people dead.
Brian is so funny. Again, I always remind people of this, but Brian Kilmeade, the person who's speaking right now, was a Ron DeSantis head. And these are the exact reasons why he was a Ron DeSantis head, because he was worried that Donald Trump would do crazy shit and not toe the State Department agenda on Ukraine and do ridiculously irresponsible things like blow up global trade for no reason other than because he's fucking bored. which is why every time
I have no allegiance to anybody. I have allegiance to saving lives, and I want to save a lot of lives. A lot of young people, mostly young people. It's the war. It's the soldiers. And if we can do that, also, as you know, I got started because the money that's been spent on this war is insane. It's a killing field. 5,000 soldiers a week on average. And we want to stop that.
So Fox News senior strategic analyst General Jack Keane, the president always makes that clear. It's his objective to stop the killing. Are they en route to stopping the killing?
It doesn't appear so, based on where we are, for a couple of reasons. One, Zelensky and his team accepted a 30-day ceasefire and, you know, removed the condition. He wanted some kind of security guarantees to be able to do that. Russia was offered the same thing, and they have rejected it. And not only that, they have continued to focus on killing civilians, targeting civilians, because they want to break the will of the Ukrainian people and put pressure on Zelensky and also on our administration to make more concessions. That's what's going on. I mean, this is full throttle on the part of Putin. He is the problem here. He has been the problem from the beginning because he obviously invaded a country illegally. And he committed genocide. He's a thug, and he's a killer, and he's a war criminal. And he certainly only wants to go to that negotiating table and probably make a deal. I'm
not gonna lie, all these fucking guys deserve Donald Trump more than anybody else. Because now they're perma stuck in a position where they have to talk about how fucked up what Russia is doing. Because these are all, okay, I'm going to keep it $150 with you. Okay, Brian Kilmeade, this guy, all of these fucking think tank guys, they're all full-throated support to Ukraine guys, okay? But they have to also dick ride Donald Trump. It's what they did. Like their ambition and their motivation is partly responsible for Ukraine being in the position that it's in right now. And it's not just because like Vladimir Putin invaded. I'm saying like their constant egging on of Ukraine, the false claims that Ukraine was going to join NATO when everybody knew that that was never going to fucking happen. All this stuff has played a major role, and they've quite literally lost the war. They've lost the battle. They lost the battle at the very least. Like the battle lines are not in favor of their proxy in this process, and they have to still, under normal circumstances, they would be like, Vladimir Putin, we need to kill him. Like we need to keep doing this. We need to keep doing this. We need to urge Ukrainians to lower their age of conscription to fucking 18. You come in. But because it's Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is talking about how, you know, Vladimir, stop. They have to present this in a way where, on the one hand, Putin is evil, but also it's cool that our president is besties with him. So they're just like stuck in this weird... They're stuck in this weird bind. On the one hand, they want the war to continue. On the other hand, they have to make it seem like Donald Trump is awesome in the way that he's dealing with it. And he is demonstrably not awesome in the way that he's dealing with it.
Unless he's able to get concessions that make Ukraine very vulnerable to a future attack, because he has not given up one iota. Our intelligence services publicly have released information that demonstrates the fact that Russia fully intends to take control of Ukraine and then also other countries in Eastern Europe. That's his objective, and we have to keep that in mind when we're dealing with him.
General, you just told me something in the break I did not think was possible. The Ukrainians want to write a check to buy Patriot missiles, a defense battery, and we said no?
Yeah, we did. I'm not sure the reason why, but it opens up the door for an avenue that we really need to take advantage of. The State Department has a program called foreign military financing. That is direct loans where you can get military equipment, you pay back the loan at interest. So the government makes money here. Poland is buying tanks, helicopters, air defense system, HIMARS, etc. Over $10 billion worth of stuff. The Ukrainians can do the same because now they have collateral in the rare mineral development and other things in the country. And also they obviously have...
Oh my God. Bro, I'm not gonna lie, when I hear this kind of shit from this admin, or when I hear this kind of shit from like generals and stuff, I'm like, you are also just as stupid and awful and evil as Donald Trump is. Like, the proper way to go about this is to shit on Donald Trump and to tell Donald Trump to shut the fuck up about Zelensky and to try to manage this, manage the situation in a way that where Ukraine doesn't get fucked over in the process, where we're not just like literally picking apart Ukraine for scraps. Except these guys literally are just like, dude, it's awesome. We can give them HIMARS. Like, who's gonna use the Patriot missiles, dude? Like, they've run out of, it's like, you look at a situation where Donald Trump is like, your raw earth is mine now. And this guy's saying, oh, they can use the raw earth as collateral to purchase Patriot missiles. So fucking fantastic opportunity. He's just a missile salesman. Like, I know I shit on Donald Trump a lot. And he is fucking worthy of being shitted on. But it's not like this guy's alternative is more intelligent either. Like, his alternative is to farm Ukraine even fucking further. It's crazy.
Some money because people have been giving them money. And that's what they wanted to do with the Patriot systems. We can take the American taxpayer out of this. And
following Steve Witkoff's meeting in Moscow, President Trump says he believes it's time for President Zelensky and President Putin to meet. Just landed in Rome. A good day in talks and meetings with Russia and Ukraine. They are very close to a deal, and the two sides should now meet at very high levels to finish it off. Most of the major points are agreed to. Stop the bloodshed now. We will be wherever is necessary to help facilitate the end to this cruel and senseless war. Following Steve Witkoff's meeting in Moscow, President Trump suggests it's time for President Zelensky and President Putin to meet. I, for one, can't wait to see what the fuck the Russian counter proposal looks like. Reuters published a full Ukraine-Europe peace talk counter proposal to the U.S. talks in London. Talks in London. There are four main parts: ceasefire, security guarantees for Ukraine territory, and economics. On the ceasefire front, a commit to a full unconditional ceasefire in the sky, on land, and at sea. Both sides immediately enter into negotiations with the U.S. and European countries. Number 3, ceasefire monitoring led by the U.S. and supported by third countries. Number 4, Russia must unconditionally return all deported Ukrainian children, exchange prisoners of war for all, release civilian prisoners. Number 3, security guarantees for Ukraine. Number 1, Ukraine receives security guarantees, Article 5-like agreement, including from the U.S., but there is no consensus among allies on NATO membership. Number 2, no restriction on Ukrainian defense forces. Number 3, the guarantor states will be European and willing non-European countries. No restrictions on the presence, weapons, and operations of friendly foreign forces on the territory of Ukraine. Number 4, Ukraine pursues accession into the EU. As far as territory goes, yes, dude, I know the TAFs is out. I know it's supposed to be out at 3. I know. I'm not going to watch it right now in the midst of my commentary about what the fuck's going on in Ukraine. Calm down. We will watch it. Shut the fuck up. Oh my God, dude. I know. It's not a losing battle. As well as Ukraine has 800,000 troops active, while Russia only has 600,000 available in Ukraine. It's not in Russia's favor. Concessions are just catering Russia. I am going to ask you this question once again, Lawrence Factor. And I asked you this question yesterday. If the situation on the battlefield is not one that is impossible to fucking win for Ukraine, given desertions, given the political instability born out of forcible drafts, why is the American government, both under the Brandonian leadership and even with Mike Waltz in a moment of fucking honesty, demanded that Ukraine lower their age of conscription to 18? I know what the Atlantic Council's position is. That's why I directly called out the Atlantic Council in this process. I'm asking you why you think the Brandonian position, looking at the writing on the wall, was to say you need to lower your age of conscription to 18. How much more can you withstand in that process? I know why the Atlantic Council would have a more militant attitude towards Ukraine. That's kind of their whole shtick. I do not know nor have an answer for that, but I do know that answer. The U.S. government is strange and slightly off hinge regardless. Okay. That is why I didn't just ask you about Trump's position on this by way of Mike Waltz. I asked you about Brandon and his position on this. because Brandon did NATO. He's the NATO guy, right? He loved sticking it to Russia. That was his major thing. He was like, oh yeah, I love unlimited baby murder in Gaza, and I love sticking it to Russia. We're destroying our foreign adversaries' military without, with 5% of our military budget. That's the Brandon legacy, right? I didn't let the Finlandization of NATO, Jack. I let the NATOization of Finland, right? He did all that. He did AUKUS. He's AUKUS, Jack. He did it. So why did that guy also simultaneously say, well, given the situation on the battlefield, you're going to have to either lower your age of conscription to 18, or we're going to have to reconsider it. Don't tell us, Snappiker, that you were trans. Oh, no. We're back. We're back with these memes. I have a friend who's super Nigerian and has some gain unfortunate right-wing positions about immigrants. I've talked to him one-on-one, but want to offer your content as an alternative. What's a YouTube video of yours? I should send him the process of stomp-pilling him. Send him my Theo Vaughn video, my interview with Theo Vaughn.
And fund Ukraine's military buildup, either significantly. Look at, if Putin is going to reject, which I think he's going to do, the deal, what then do we do? One, crippling sanctions would be option one, and two, upgun Ukraine. Upgun Ukraine to bring Putin to the negotiating table, not so Ukraine can continue to fight, but Putin pays attention to that military equation and who has an advantage there more than anything else, actually more than sanctions.
I just hope the president knows.
These are levers that we can use these levers.
I hope the president knows that this happens. Sometimes it happens beneath his level because this is defense. Who would not want to block a rocket from going into a city? Lavrov told Face the Nation that he says the president of the United States and I think rightly so that we are moving in the right direction and they are heading towards peace. They are ready to.
Yeah, dude, Trump just hasn't seen your coverage on it. That's what it is. Bro tweeted out, Vladimir, stop, not 24 hours ago. And this dumbass thinks like, oh, maybe I'll be able to get to him by way of a good deal by talking about how good of a deal this is. Amazing. I feel like Trump is just cooked on this process. And even then, when I hear stuff like this, I'm like, damn, like even Trump is, in all of his idiocy, is further along a more manageable position than these fucking monsters are. Because the reality of the matter is, glazing Adolf Putler aside, and by the way, there is no guarantee that Vladimir Putin is even going to abide by any ceasefire, let alone, sign off on a fucking ceasefire. Make no mistake. And I do think that Trump's way of managing this situation is actually working against that. Okay. But having said that, a ceasefire or some sort of treaty is inevitable. It's just you're basically moving how many people dies in the process. That's why I was in favor of the Antalya program, the 15-point ceasefire negotiation, when Ukraine had tremendously more leverage back then. Do I think that Vladimir Putin has the capacity to take over the entirety of Ukraine? I don't, but that doesn't matter. What matters is how many Ukrainians will die. Because even if they were to lower the age of conscription to 18, and then America started sending in weapons again, okay, a steady flow of weapons, there is no guarantee that they'd be able to train the military fast enough, have enough appetite to fight back, and be able to push Russia out of these territories that they've established hardened positions inside of. So there's no guarantee that this is going to work anyway. So in that regard, I think if Donald Trump was not a fucking asshole, I think him pushing for some kind of ceasefire while also trying to figure out concessions to give to Ukraine, so it doesn't come across as though they're just like discarding these people as though they're nothing. Oh shit! I got so many text messages from my family in the process. This is crazy. Anyway, what do you think Trump cares about humanity? No, I think Trump's ambition for this is totally artificial. He thinks that the situation is lost. And he foolishly thinks that as long as he can pass this on to the previous administration as a mistake that he just closed off, then he will look like a hero. He doesn't give a fuck about Ukraine or Ukrainians. I'd go so far as to say he probably cares about being liked by Vladimir Putin more than he cares about Ukrainians in general. He's just looking for a W there. And he thinks if he sucks Vladimir Putin as hard as he has thus far, then Vladimir Putin will give him that W. Ironically enough, the very fact that he's sucking Vladimir Putin and the statements that he's made leading up to the election is the reason why Vladimir Putin has more leverage now than he did even before. Beyond the battlefield, I mean. Leverage in the diplomacy side. Part of the deal, baby.
Reach a deal. Do you believe the foreign minister of Russia? Just real quick, because I want to get to Iran too.
No, he lies through his teeth. He's been lying for 25 years, just like the guy he works for. This is all the Russians' narrative, their playbook, their propaganda. Where's the evidence of that to date?
They
walked away from what was reasonable. The president offered them a 30-day ceasefire, not 6 months, not a year, not permanent, 30 days. Zelensky says yes, the Russians say no. That's where they really are.
By going this far, the president took political risk in giving Vladimir Putin a chance at peace. He better not embarrass the president, in my view, because he'll feel the backlash. He already got rebuked yesterday.
He already got rebuked? The president looked like a giant pussy, dude. What are you talking about? He got rebuked. Oh, you mean when he said, Vladimir, stop? That was the rebuke, dude? What an incredible rebuke that was. Didn't we all? Yeah. Everyone remembers that historical moment when the American president said, Vladimir, stop. Wow. Such tremendous backlash. This is the most Brandonized moment. This is literally CNN saying Brandon is actually having a come to Jesus moment with Benjamin Netanyahu. Incredible.
Yesterday. So now tomorrow, third straight week of nuke talks with Iran. They named Michael Anton, senior State Department official, to lead the technical team on Iran's nuclear negotiations. How do you feel about where we're at right now? What do your sources tell you? What kind of progress is being made?
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, we know a couple of things. One, Iran's not going to dismantle the program as we asked them to do, by a date certain with inspections and verification. Obviously, that's not happening. That's the same thing that Obama did, by the way. When they began negotiations in 2013, they told Iran to dismantle your program, give up.
Yeah, that's the other side of the story that's really funny, is that Donald Trump, who delivered the death blow to Barack Obama's signature foreign policy accomplishment, has now turned around and is trying to do Barack Obama's Iran denuclearization agreement. I fucking love that, dude. That is awesome.
Up enrichment, give up the centrifuges, give up your ballistic missiles. They balked, and then we accepted civil nuclear power enrichment. They kept their centrifuges and they kept their ballistic missiles. They eventually got real close to a nuclear weapon, as we all know, which is the concern we have today. The Iranians are masters at working these negotiations to their favor. So we have to keep an eye on this, certainly.
This guy has straightforwardly the worst positions on everything, by the way. He's like, I don't know about this Iran denuclearization agreement. Maybe we should just nuke Iran ahead of time.
The administration wants a nuclear program that cannot even come close to weaponization. Mm-hmm. But even if you take away all the enrichment and leave the centrifuges and the ballistic missiles, they can get enriched uranium from many countries. We get it from 4 or 5 different countries, to include Russia. China, Russia, and North Korea all have enriched uranium. Why? Because they all have nuclear weapons, and they're their closest allies. So clandestinely, they can still get enriched uranium, and they keep the centrifuges to spin that and get it to a weaponization grade, and they keep the ballistic missiles so they can deliver it. That's what we have to be very careful of going forward here.
It got to be Americans on the ground watching the dismantling.
Maybe people will yell at me for saying this, but I do think that the region will be way more stable if Iran had fucking nukes. This is not just my take. This is the Mersheimer protocol. He says this as well. I think Jeffrey Sachs might have said this too. It's kind of insane to think that I could get away with saying this shit. I mean, I have before, but like the Hasanabi doctrine remains true. And it's low-key part, it's the only reason why I think this is because Israel has nukes. I feel like if Israel did not have nukes, which they have, and it's too late, and they've had it for a very long time. If Israel did not have nukes, then I would not have this exact same perspective. Do you think nuclear winter will be beneficial for climate change? I mean, as it stands, You either have a fucking nuke or you don't. You know what I mean? If you don't have a nuke, you get walked over. What are nations supposed to do? Don't make me tap the sign, dude. Don't make me tap the fucking sign. There it is. The Hasanabi Doctrine, a guide for nation building. Rule number 1, get nukes. Rule number 2, do not give up the nukes. You know who did rule number 2? You know who violated rule number 2? Ukraine, bitch. That's who violated rule number 2. Ukraine fucked up. And you're over here talking about, oh, dude, countries can't have nukes. What are you talking about? Okay, rule number 3. If you're accused of having nukes, drop everything and immediately find some nukes. Especially if America says you have nukes, you have to find nukes. If you don't have nukes after America says you have nukes, you're fucked. Countries that have gone through this process and did not find nukes, leadership like Gaddafi. Gaddafi learned the problem with rule number 3, okay? Saddam Hussein, a different version of that. Both of those guys went out in not so great ways, okay? Ukraine is a violator of rule number 2. Gave up the fucking nukes. I'm not Mr. Nukes have actually created global stability and global peace, but as it stands, you look at countries that don't have nukes and you look at countries that do have nukes, okay? And it kind of feels like countries that don't have nukes are getting dominated by countries that do. When did Ukraine have nukes? I mean, technically it was USSR nukes that were in Ukraine and they had no way of using them, but it doesn't matter. You should have just, on principle, never given up the nukes. Bro, a Soviet soldier literally prevented the nuclear holocaust like it's defo not a force of stability. That's right, you admit the glory of the Soviets? I've never not admitted the glory of the Soviets. What are you talking about? Technically, USSR ceased to exist and they belonged to Ukraine. Yeah, but the launching platform was still in control of Russia. In the control of Russia, so they couldn't technically use it. Yeah, the white fascist South African government denuked South Africa for this reason. They didn't want a black leftist government to have nukes. Why did they want to denuclearize Iran so bad? I'm a Zoomer, so I'm not caught up. I mean, it's because when a country has nukes, they have full-blown autonomy, full-blown sovereignty, and they can get away with being treated differently. They get treated differently than countries that are devoid of nukes. I mean, look at Ukraine. Look at Ukraine. Look at what's happening to Ukraine.
Yeah, that program in the way Libya did and South Africa did and Ukraine did. And that's just the beginning. I'm not sure the Israelis are going to sit on the side if they think it's a bad deal. General Jack Keane, there's so much going on. The Institute of Study of War helps unwind it on a daily basis, and you're chairman of that. Thanks so much, General. Have a great weekend. So, NATO chief, Amar.
Did you just say Vietnam doesn't have nukes? Yeah, dude. What happened? I mean, you're Vietnamese. You know this. What happened to your people? Exactly. America fucking genocided the Vietnamese population. That's what happens when you don't have nukes. When you don't have nukes, you get fucking genocided so hard that even currently, almost half a century later, okay, you still have disabilities in the upcoming generation, like they're still born with birth defects. Sorry, I saw XQC duking it out in my replies with Mighty Keef. Or here it is. It's so funny to always imagine that you wouldn't be in the minds if such a scheme were to be implemented, I said, responding to Asmongold, saying society would instantly and dramatically improve if we took the bottom 5 to 10% of the most R-worded kids out of school and put them in the coal mines instead. Almost all Western cultural problems derive from an adherence to the false god of equity. To which I responded with, it's so funny to always imagine that you wouldn't be in the minds if such a scheme were to be implemented. Okay. To which Mighty Keith responded with, I find it wild. He says horrible things like this about a parent's mentally disabled children. But when people bring up his dead mom, he cries on YouTube about how the world's being mean to him. I don't get it, lol. XU said he isn't referring to mentally disabled children, but actually depicting unintelligent ones. For most people, his opinion about the topic doesn't warrant an ad hominem about his dead relative. Hope this offers some guidance on this topic, says XQC. To which, once again, Mighty Keith's point here isn't that it is appropriate to shit on Asmongold's mother, okay? He's saying, like, if you can understand how inappropriate it is to have someone shit on your mom, which I agree, by the way, it is inappropriate, right? Then, you know, why are you making these fucking broad declarative statements? Like, empathy begets empathy, right? And it's wild because He says, he specifically said R-worded children, which by definition are mentally disabled kids. You aren't putting your own interpretation on it. I'm using reality. You're putting your own interpretation on it. I'm using reality. Saying the ad hominem on Asman is bad, but the ad hominem on parents who have disabled kids is okay is hypocritical. Putting actually mentally disabled children in coal mines would, I assume, endanger them. Even Asman knows this. You are misreading obvious dialogue cues. Okay, what if they're stupid kids? Like, what if they're just not, like, full-blown mentally disabled kids, but what if they're just, like, the bottom 10%? How do we make this assessment on who is the bottom 10%? The entire conversation is fucking idiotic. So don't interpret his actual words he's using as what he means. Assume he means something else. You're an idiot. I assume I mean that however you want. Surely no one still uses derogatory terms in different ways in their literal definition. Brother, what the fuck is happening? The underlying basis for this argument is eugenics, okay? A eugenicist principle that will dictate, like, this is genetic predetermination talk happening on the timeline and getting a shit ton of fucking likes, and you have XQC who under normal circumstances would absolutely fall in the fucking 5 to 10% bottom fucking intelligence quotient, okay? Talking about how, well, actually, you know, maybe this is a good idea. Maybe he put forward this strategy because he truly believes that this would be beneficial for society. It's like, what is going on? What are we doing here? What the fuck is happening? Everyone has lost their goddamn minds, it seems. All it took was for Donald Trump to come out and say some insane nonsense for half of the fucking streamers to be like, yeah, actually, we should be sending people to the fucking coal mines by force if they're too stupid to study. What the fuck? The irony, of course, is that if you don't understand how psychotic, if you take this statement seriously, if you don't understand how psychotic this policy would look like if implemented, you probably are in the fucking 5 to 10% bottom intelligence, and you would be sent to the fucking coal mines. That's the irony here. All of the people that are liking that fucking tweet would be in the coal mines. It's the same idiotic fantasy of a guy with a fucking busted down 1994 Honda Civic thinking that if there was an anarcho-capitalist dystopian future, that they would somehow magically become a factory owner and enslave the rest of the population. Brother, you are basically servile right now. Why the fuck do you think, if the systems that have kept you alive in spite of the best interest of your bosses and the people that dominate society right now, if they were left unchecked, why the fuck do you think you would magically become the factory owner? You would be a slave. Actually, you would probably not even make it to the slave class. You would just be melted for biomatter. This is something that I don't understand. Americans are so oblivious to class consciousness. They're so far removed from understanding their fucking class position that they literally fantasize about one day being the foreman of the factory in an anarcho-capitalist dystopia. Yeah, dude, it was the rules that was actually stopping you from achieving this unlimited success that you will get. Meanwhile, you're trying to Sigma grindset your way out of your shitty dead-end fucking job as you are being melted down to your fucking core. If you can't make it within the confines where these regulatory agencies have basically prevented your bosses from fucking you to death, then how the fuck do you think you're going to make it when there's no rules? They're just going to literally force you into the salt mine, and once you are discarded like an old horse with a severe injury, you're going to be sent to the fucking glue factory. Why are you so upset? Because stupidity is not only offensive, but it's incredibly fucking frustrating. This level of stupidity and the way and the oblivious nature of Americans frustrates me to no end. That's what pisses me off. This is my point. This is the point that it's just, how are you not mad is the question. You got an insane eugenics policy getting a shit ton of likes on Twitter, okay, by people who would be sent to the fucking mines. Like, people that are liking this are going to the mines, okay, if implemented, if this policy is implemented. I don't want this policy to be implemented. I don't even think Asmongold was being serious here. He's just fucking trying to be bold, okay? He's just trying to be bold and trying to get these fucking likes and trying to be talked about. And he succeeded, right? But, like, and XUC is joining in on the conversation because he wants to present himself as a centrist as well, okay? A center-right figure himself. Oh, new copium just dropped. What? Sorry if this is derailing. I'm not going to fucking watch an H3 subreddit post, chatter. Come on. He will say it was a joke and Hassan crashed out about it. I mean, the irony is I also joked. But what I'm crashing out about is the stupidity of other people that know better trying to be like, well, actually, I'm going to defend this policy on its virtues alone. Like, that's what's more frustrating to me. Because, like, yeah, I saw this take from Asmongold and I was like, this is ridiculous. It's sad that there's so many people that liked it, not realizing that they would also be victim to this fucking policy, Asmongold included. I made a joke about it. I said, it's so funny to always imagine that you wouldn't be in the mines if such a scheme were to be implemented. And then Mighty Keith said, I find it wild he says horrible things like this about a parent's mentally disabled children, but when people bring up his dead mom, he cries on YouTube about how the world's being mean to him. I don't get it. Saying, like, you are so unempathetic, but you have the capacity to demonstrate empathy when someone is attacking you in an unempathetic fashion. This tweet has 46K likes in X's community. Juicers see this. Yeah, I brought this up the other day. Yes, XQC's audience is also aware of his ways, you know? The silliest point of contention here is always to take, like, the silliest thing here is always whenever, you know, centrism fans and centrism understanders will take the argument at face value, okay? They will never scratch the surface where they'll just be like, yeah, dude, this is what actually is happening here, you know? Remember, the conversation started with me saying, don't ever let anyone tell you your voices don't matter, right? There's real discontent towards Elon Musk. In some instances, that discontent is so vast and so insurmountable that it leads to literal vandalism, okay? Acts of vandalism. This isn't to say that acts of vandalism are good, okay? I'm not saying that. I have a platform. I can't say that, regardless of what I may actually think, okay? Having said that, like, this isn't even about the fucking cars burning on fire anyway. I'm literally talking about the ways in which the discontent towards Elon Musk has blown up, so much so that he is basically saying he's gonna fucking leave. But then people turn around and go, no, he's leaving because they're lighting Teslas on fire. As in, they're taking Elon's reaction, which he hasn't even delivered himself personally, at face value. They're imagining an alternative that Elon is actually quitting because people are lighting the cars on fire, not realizing that people are lighting the cars on fire because of how fucking little they want to do with Elon Musk due to his actions inside the federal agencies. Okay? And then the centrism defenders look to that argument and go, yeah, he's right. It is actually because the cars are being lit on fire. And Hassan is saying it's good to light the cars on fire. I never said that. Why did you choose the QRT Hassan on some shit he's objectively correct on instead of 1,000 actual moronic things he's posted, bro? Defend it. Violence equals voice. Look who's doing the defending now. It's so annoying whenever people take this, like, unnuanced position in an effort to defend right-wing attitudes and right-wing ideology. Okay? It's so goddamn frustrating when people will just look to this and go, well, you know, he's making a good point here. Like, the conversation has shifted from the point that I was making, which is that there is very real discontent. There is very real discontent towards Elon Musk. And that discontent is so vast and so powerful that it even fucking erupts in acts of vandalism against property. It has also erupted in the way it also has turned into people not purchasing Tesla vehicles in general. Okay? Anyway, this conversation is still continuing, by the way. This isn't an argument. You're telling me I'm supposed to just assume someone means something other than what they said. There wasn't even any context that could allude to him meaning what you're saying. You just pulled it out of your ass to defend someone who has the same ideals. I don't understand. Why is XC addressed as a relevant interlocutor? Because whether we agree to it or not, the reality of the matter is people that put forth these incredibly silly, incredibly dumb positions are actually getting a lot of prominence because other people are even dumber than they are. Okay? I don't even personally think that XQC is authentic in these authentic as to the why he's arguing on these positions. Like, I don't think he's authentically arguing for this shit. I think he's doing it specifically for clout purposes. He sees Asmongold's metrics, and he's like, well, I want a piece of that. Obviously, there's a lot of dumb fucks who will eat up whatever garbage I put their way if I were to assume a centrist, enlightened centrist right-wing position. This isn't fucking new, okay? It's not new. This is how Dave Rubin became a right-wing figure. This is how Tim Pool started off as a right-wing figure. So many right-wing commentators. Jordan Peterson did this as well. Why isn't it relevant if they actually believe it or not? They're spreading Nazi rhetoric and their audience genuinely believes it. Dog, I'm not saying this to defend XUC. I'm saying that, why can't people comprehend? When people are grifting to the right, it doesn't matter if they're grifting or if they're genuine. What matters is their output, okay? But the very fact that they're grifting on top of that makes it even more indecent. My point is not deep down inside, he has like a real opinion that is born out of empathy. I'm also saying that it's worse because it doesn't matter what he fucking truly believes. He's just doing it for clout. I always thought XU was pretty right-wing. Yeah, you were unfamiliar with his commentary then, because only a couple years prior, before he like did the Gamba stuff, he used to be a very empathetic person. Like, he wasn't the most well-read, but he you know, his moral guidance was born out of being nice to people. If you hear him talk about like not saying the R word, you know, and shit like that, you can understand it. It sounds stupid and it sounds silly, but I think it's instructive about a person's point of view, about what their guiding, motivating principles are. I mean, it's been a long time at this point. He's been getting yelled at by other Twitch communities recently, so we hit the fuck Hassan button, that's all. Yeah, but it doesn't even fucking work now, because that just causes resentment from his audience that understands, to this day, at least right now, they understand who the real villain of society is. They see Donald Trump as the real villain of society. So, and they see Elon Musk as the real villain of society, because they are. So when XQC says fuck Hassan, they don't read that as like, yeah, you know what, Hassan's again, Hassan is doing it again. He's just being a fucking moron. Oh, fuck that guy. They go, you're being a fucking moron for saying fuck Hassan in this process because we agree with him. The fuck Hassan button only works in times when the overwhelming majority of the population can't see that the institutions are causing them direct harm. Anyway, when did it become meta to hate on you? It took many, many years to get to this point, but it ultimately doesn't mean anything either. It's just a meta for like some communities. It's the meta for drama slop tubers. It's the meta for a lot of like these centrist apolitical types, but it's not necessarily the meta across the board. Obviously, if that was the case, I wouldn't have as vast an audience as I do currently. And the meta has changed anyway. For the uneducated and the young, I am seen as like a beacon of woke, you know? I'm seen as like the arbiter of all things woke. And from the liberal side, I'm seen as the arbiter of all things that demonstrate their moral depravity, because there is a different alternative out there and they don't want to abide by that, and they want to maintain the current the current systems in spite of how deeply unpopular that maintenance looks like for the average person, so much so that they went and fucking voted for Donald Trump. That's it. It was around the Tate time. That's when being compared to you was a compliment to, I don't know about this Hassan guy. Yeah. Anyway, it is what it is. But the fuck Hassan meta has kind of, the fuck Hassan exit ramp doesn't work as it once did. I think the grace you give the right-wing men that stream stands opposed to what I've seen from the women on the left saying. Just a pattern I've noticed. I know you're great at outreach, but no need to defend the lost. They yearn to wander. I don't just give grace to right-wing men that stream. I give grace to everyone. And that is precisely the reason why I've been able to create a community of like-minded individuals that have had their minds changed. This is a big part of what I believe in.
Personal property.
What is
Your
this?
Land. China didn't.
What the fuck?
a certain
Blue pilled my lifelong conservative mom in 2017. Now she gives history lessons to my Republican family. What the fuck is this?
amount of land you're allowed to have is personal property because you're using
What the fuck?
it for your personal purposes. You can own the car, you cannot own the means of production of the car. And their logic is that in a communist society, you have to give to the masses, like you have to contribute something to the community, and you are allowed to work for your own personal use. What you cannot do is benefit off the labor of somebody else. So their argument is, if I'm one person, when I work, I get paid a salary, right? But what I cannot do is make 1,000 other people work, and I don't do any work, and I get paid off of all of their labor. That's what communism says is illegal. The means of production belong to the people. All of the manufacturing is government owned. Now there are all companies, all businesses are government owned. All large tracts of land are government owned. There are a few exceptions, most of them that came from when Hong Kong was returned to China. Hong Kong had been for 100 years British. There were a bunch of Chinese people that were living there that were used to a free economy. And these people are, as you know, very, very wealthy people. They built very big businesses. Well, these Hong Kong billionaires who are used to being free went to Beijing and said, one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to play games, you're either going to deal with us nicely in the sandbox, and we will stay here as a Chinese company in China, or we'll just get the fuck out. We don't have to stick around because we got billions of dollars. So what's it going to be? So there are certain companies like that that were able to maintain their companies separately. There are also public companies, because you can have a public company. You can't have a company that is owned by an individual privately, okay? So BYD, the big competitor against Tesla, that is a public company. It is a Chinese company, but it is publicly owned. And the Chinese government gave a lot of money to get it going, just as our government gives a lot of incentives to get businesses going.
But now, wait a minute. If it's publicly owned, isn't that like our stock market?
Bro, what is happening? This is a meeting of the Debras and the Barbaras. I mean, this is just one video, but it does give me great confidence that perhaps people can be reasoned with. Amazing.
Market? Yes, it is traded on our stock market. It's a Chinese company that is traded on our stock market that I sold all my Tesla stock to buy into.
Oh my God.
Steal our technology. They set their rules. Our businesses knew what the rules were, and they made.
Bro, is this, wait, hold on. Does this person doesn't, this is like verbatim. This is like bar for bar shit that I have said. I love this
Decision to do business in
China. This isn't blue pilling. This is red pilling, dude. This is straight up red pilling in the appropriate way.
Our business leaders gave it to them, which sounds crazy until you realize you're the CEO of Apple. You want to go sell Apple phones to 1 billion people in China. Or you want to get access to 1 billion workers who are higher skilled workers. Do you think the CEO of Apple didn't know that to go do that, China says, great, you can come here, but the price of entry is you will share your technology with us. You will teach us. We have to get something out of this too. And what we want is to learn from you. We want to learn your technology. So you have to share your technology, or nobody's forcing them to do business in China. If you don't want that, when you're Apple that your patents are not going to be respected, but you chose to go build a factory there. Well, then you can't then say, now you stole my technology. So what's happened here is you've got a CEO that either is thinking very short term. Let's say you're Tesla and you're like, okay,
a lot of Twitter poll nerds have been saying that for years. If you get the wine moms onto your issue, you'll win that issue. And holy shit. I mean, I make no mistake. This is just one wine mom. Okay. I mean, it starts this way. This is what Mao said when he talked about the spiritual atom bomb. Okay. Of Maoist thought. This is how it works. This is the real spiritual atom bomb.
I'm going to give them all my technology because in the short term, I'm going to have this huge burst of business. My revenues are going to go skyrocketing. You know, I'm going to have this great advantage that makes me as a CEO look great. And
not trying to be uncharitable, but the shock that it's Deborah wine mom, soccer mom, etc., as if housewives don't have intelligent conversations about the economy. No, intelligent people that have conversations about the economy can still be completely invested in intelligent people that oftentimes have conversations about the economy don't actually have this perspective. This is not about intelligence. This is about perspective. Oftentimes, the intelligent people that are having conversations about the economy or even the political economy or even politics in general are having that within the confines of Western liberal capitalist democracy. Seeing the world outside of that, no matter how intelligent you are, is actually unique. You don't have to be brilliant to see the world outside of that. Okay? It just means that your perspective has grown. It has shifted. My brother says Mao was worse than the Holocaust. What do I even say to that? I don't know. I don't know how. I mean, I'm owned in the marketplace of ideas. That's incredible.
the fact that I may be training a competitor that is going to absolutely destroy me in the market 5 years or 10 years from now, well, that's not my problem. I won't be CEO then. I'll let the next guy deal with that. So that's one possibility. And, you know, that's just a business decision. The other possibility is that you're Nike. And if you're Nike, you might say, you know what? Let them make better shoes than us. It doesn't matter because we have the Nike brand. And when somebody goes shopping, they can sit and see two different shoes sitting right next to each other. That one the shoe A may be better looking and better made, but shoe B says Nike. They're going to pay more money for the Nike because we've got a great brand. So I'm not afraid of, it's not a matter of I'm ignoring the future. I'm not afraid of the future. I will always get out ahead of them because I've got a fantastic brand. Tesla at one time could have said that had Elon not opened his mouth in our government and really destroyed his brand. But my point is, you can't then villainize China and say they're evil because they stole our shit. No, we gave it to them as a business decision in order to gain access to 1 billion consumers or 1 billion Chinese workers.
She has to be a Hasanabi headlaw. This sounds like one of your rants. Well, her daughter is not following me, so
China didn't steal.
I don't think she is.
They're evil because they stole our shit. No, we gave it to them as a business decision.
I have a wine aunt who says if she had the choice, she would join Hamas. To be clear, she is white Zimbabwean. That is insane. But also, that makes... Actually, you know what? That kind of makes sense. It's like that lady in Australia on Twitter. I saw that post from the one woman from Twitter that was like, I'm a 52-year-old Australian woman, and if I had the opportunity, I would join Hamas.
In order to gain access to 1 billion consumers or 1 billion Chinese workers.
This does not sound like a Hassan rant because Hassan uses examples and terms that most chuds can't even comprehend. If he dumbed down his messaging, he'd get more conversions. The way she just explained this process is bar for bar, exactly the same words that I've used, talking about this exact same issue, like down to the IP theft.
It doesn't need to, like, you don't need to pit them as the enemy against us. They don't have an evil economy. They have a different economy. It's a different structure. And some would argue it's more fair, and some would argue it's not. And some would argue the exact same thing about a capitalist society where you have billionaires and then you have people in America who literally cannot find food.
Just looking at the headline, you know this article is going to be fire. Harvard is an Islamist outpost. For decades, it nurtured resentful leftists, and anti-Semitism united them in a common cause. Oh my God. Amazing. This is like, dude, if you have the severe lack of wherewithal to be able to put together a fucking article with a title like this, like, you shouldn't ever be able to write again. Oh, the OG tweet got yeeted into space. I'm a 73-year-old woman from Australia. After seeing what Israel has done and continues to do, if I was capable, I'd join Hamas. But I guess this is who wrote it.
Is not to make you look good, American Jews.
Oh, I remember this lady. Oh my God.
Our job is not to make you look good, American Jews. What do you have to worry about? Your years and then for the rest of our lives.
Fuck. I know. No. Hold on. It's gonna come back. Just wait. Just hold. I know the frame rate is busted. Hold the line. This happened yesterday as well. It's coming back. Hold on. Happened yesterday as well. Wait a second. It'll pass. Oh, it passed already. It's back. We're back. Refresh. Yep. We're back. Also, I do gotta say something. Chat. I'm freaking glowing, dude. I'm freaking glowing, fam. Look at this. That goddamn facial. Whoo, sheesh. Yeah, if you're delayed, refresh. If you're delayed, refresh. Because I think that there is, yeah, it seems like chat is delayed. Chat is on a significant delay. Don't touch your face. I won't. I know. I'm trying not to. Trust. All right. Rewind, please. Yeah, I'm going to rewind. Here, listen to this demon.
Our job is not to make you look good, American Jews. What do you have to worry about? Your job is to make us look good. And here's how you do it.
I refreshed too, but the chat is still delayed. Happened yesterday too, like 30 seconds. Wait, really? Oh my God. Wait, what the fuck? This literally happened. Oh my God. Chat is like delayed by 2 minutes. Chat, we're going to try. Press 1. Chat, press 1. When you hear this, press 1. It's 3:59. Oh my God. Okay, first one came at 4. Okay, it's literally a minute delay for some. Oh my God. For others, oh my God, there only a couple people are 1 minute delayed, and there's still. Oh, now it started. It's almost 2 minutes. Oh my God. What the fuck is happening? Bro. Oh shit. How the hell? You have to restart your stream. I warned you about this yesterday. It's like 30 seconds delayed. Yeah, I'm not going to restart the stream, dude. If anything, I'm just going to fucking end the stream if that's the case.
Every one of us has to serve 3 years in the Army, 2 years in the Army, some of us 5 years, and then for the rest of our lives, you have got to serve 2 or 3 years in the army of words. You've got to learn to fight the political battle, which is even more important at this point than the military battle that we are. We'll fight the military battle. We're not asking you necessarily to come and be lone soldiers, although some of you can. You've got to learn how to fight back on the campuses, how to make the arguments. Now, they keep shifting. You know, the ground keeps shifting under us. They keep changing the language. Intersectionality wasn't even a word 10 years ago. Now suddenly it's intersectionality. You've got to stay on top of it. And you know how we train for the Army? We don't train for defensive warfare. If the war against Israel ever had to be fought on Israeli soil, do I have to tell you? It's an impossibility. So it's the same thing. Don't let the war of words ever be fought about Israel's nature. Let it be fought about why you can't accept Israel, why you have to single out this tiny people. Try to find Israel on the map. It's hardly there. You know, we used to play this game, where...
This is a famous Hasbarist, okay? I've played this video before. I've played this video on the stream before. This is an old Hasanabi classic. She is the OG, like, she is the OG author of propaganda, and she's basically describing it too. She's describing exactly the terms of propaganda here. The clip of that lady was one of the first clips you showed after teaching what the word Hasbara means, and that was definitely a holy shit moment for me. Yep. I wrote about Canadian Zionist Ruth Wise last year when she gave this talk on March 13, 2024. It was one of the most racist and vitriolic Jewish supremacist rants I've ever heard. Here's a clip from her rabid, diabolical diatribe.
Where's Waldo? Where is Waldo on the map? Are you going to really tell me that this is the country you want to blame? Teach them how to defend by attacking. Teach them really what one says, as in fencing. You've got to do that. You've got to make demands on them. They've got to serve for 3 years in the army of words.
Well, I cannot even start with this to compete with this passion and compassion. Of course.
Here is Samira Mohyeddin.
If you are an Israeli anywhere, and if you are a Jew anywhere, Mr. Netanyahu is the head of the Israeli government, and you stand up and salute, and you ask everyone else in the whole world, don't you dare minimize our prime minister. Don't you dare call him a chicken shit. Don't you dare.
Psycho. Anyway, these are people who don't care about anything. They just want to defend Israel. That's it. That's it. That's it. And they will say insane shit in the process of defense of Israel. Okay, I think we're good now. No, I effed it on purpose. And now we're back, right? Yeah. We're back now, right? I had to save it. I had to save the stream. Yeah. Yeah, we're good. Okay, it's back. Okay, the ingest, on my ingest side, on my cloud server side, it was there was an issue, and we seemingly have fixed said issue. Okay. All right, we're going to watch Taft's The Adam Friedland Show.
Damn, this guy's good.